Hamas from the south, Hezbollah from the north. Since the war began, more than 19,000 rockets have been fired into Israel. Moody Radio invites you to pause and pray. Lord of the nations, we ask your protection over Israel. We pray that you would destroy the machinery of war that threatens her. May the United States remain an ally. And together, we pray for the peace of Jerusalem and the entire Middle East. In the name of the Prince of Peace, Jesus. Amen.
Need direction for your life? Here's Pastor Mark Jobe with a word of wisdom.
This cross represents change. It's a crossroad. If God has spoken to your heart today, then say, God, I cannot change myself. I need you to change me. I yield and release to you. And then that you would get on your knees and you would say, God, here I am. I'm yielding my life to you. I'm yielding my life to you. There are some of you know that's a step you need to take. Some of you that know this morning on resurrection morning that it's a step that you need to take in God. I don't even have to tell you. You knew something inside of you was going to change. And a decision that you make today will alter the course of your life.
That was a Bold Steps Minute with Mark Jobe, author of What Now? How to Move into Your Next Season. Learn more at boldstepsradio.org.
This is FEBC Today with Ed Cannon, the president of the Far East Broadcasting Company. Ed, as you know, today is the National Day of Prayer. We need to extend that to the world, don't we?
That's right. And Wayne, since the very inception of the Far East Broadcasting Company nearly 80 years ago, we have been an organization who depend entirely on prayer for guiding our organization. Mm-hmm. Our founder, Dr. Bob Bowman, was a man of prayer. And so many times I would visit him and he would be praying for the people, the staff of FEBC, praying for the outcome of our work, that many people would come to faith. And he inspired me by telling me his entire career was one dependent upon prayer. He often referred to Scripture, and one of the Scriptures I remember speaking with him about comes from Mark chapter 9, when a man brought his son possessed by an evil spirit and had convulsed, and he had become hopeless. What can I do with this boy? And he came to Jesus and he said, if you can do anything, take pity and help us. And Jesus responded to him, if you can, ? Like he's questioning whether or not I can do this. And then Jesus said this wonderfully powerful line, all things are possible to him who believes.
Yes.
And Dr. Bowman believed in that. And as an organization that tackled some nearly impossible assignments, taking the gospel to China, taking the gospel to Indonesia, taking the gospel to these unbelieving, unchristian nations all around the world, he believed that by placing your faith and confidence in God and doing the things that God told us to, we would accomplish his will.
So join us in prayer today at the Far East Broadcasting Company on this National Day of Prayer and pray for the unreached around the world. Thanks for listening to FEBC Today.
There's joy in the journey. It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Vice President J.D. Vance cast a tie-breaking vote to kill a Senate resolution that would undo President Trump's trade policy. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The Senate yesterday rejected a resolution that would have revoked Trump's emergency order allowing him to impose global tariffs. The vote was tied 49-49, mostly along party lines, with a handful of Republicans joining Democrats in support of the resolution. Charges are being filed against a Stark County teen that authorities say took a loaded firearm to school. Reports say the 17-year-old was found with the gun in his backpack yesterday at Lake High School. And Solon firefighters were dispatched to the scene of a blaze at the Nestle Stouffer's production facility last night. Flames were reported at the Harper Road property at around 9 p.m. No injuries were reported, and there has been no word on the cause of that fire. In sports, the Guardians doubled up the Twins 4-2, and the Pirates edged the Cubs 4-3. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Mostly cloudy. There's a chance of showers and thunderstorms this morning. Then showers and thunderstorms become more likely this afternoon. Some thunderstorms may produce gusty winds this afternoon. Otherwise, it's going to be warmer with our highs in the upper 70s. At last check, mostly cloudy. 52 degrees in Cleveland, 56, Akron and Canton, 51 in Youngstown.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
Mental Health Awareness Month is celebrated in May. The stigma around mental health and treatment has long existed, even though this has started to change. Still, some people hesitate to seek help or even talk about it with their loved ones for fear of being judged or facing unnecessary backlash. Simple logic dictates that if we are hurt anywhere, we must seek treatment to get better. Let's normalize mental health care. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:02. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
6:06 on WCRF. Hey, I tell you what, Dave Szfranski will be here from 8 to 9 answering your financial questions. So you better get in line. People often wait too long.
Yeah. Isn't it weird how at the beginning, Lauren's like, well, we only have a couple of questions. And then by the end, well, we can't get them all in.
Yeah, people always
Very
assume
true,
that
they wait.
like, someone else is going to, we've got too many questions. And it
Not
comes
always.
in waves, you
Mhm,
know.
it comes in waves.
440-546-2255. Ron, you've been hanging on to a story about really, I think, how your granddaughter's been spending perhaps far too much time with your wife.
Yes. My daughter and her husband are both counselors. So they work with different organizations and their schedules don't always match up. And then my grandson, he's 9, he's getting into like CYO basketball and rugby and, you know, all the sports. So he's starting to have night practices. So there's plenty of opportunity for us to watch the youngest 2 granddaughters. And Dolly, she's 5. She was over the other day. She's been running around and, you know, kind of out of breath. And she comes over, she goes, Mimi, and she's waving her hand on herself. I'm having a hot flash.
What did Mimi say to that?
Yeah, she said, well, you're just warm right now. It'll be a few years before it's a hot flash.
They'll come.
Yep. Of course, I'm shocked to hear that Dana could possibly be in a phase of life. She's so young and vibrant.
I would agree, except I see this. I've been seeing hot flashes for years, and it's funny. You're driving along, and all of a sudden the window's going down, and oh, she's having one of those.
Dolly is so cute. And her name is just so cute. I love that. I saw a random story about a little kid. Speaking of little kids, that really caught my eye. It's every parent's nightmare. Firmly in the zone of what Lauren is living in right now, the age of kid.
What happened?
Curators of a Dutch museum say that a painting worth $56 million has been damaged by an unsupervised child.
Yeah.
A spokesperson for the museum in Rotterdam says that a 1960 abstract painting by an American artist that none of us, Mark Rothko, I
don't know him,
has, quote, a number of visible scratches in the unvarnished paint layer after the child touched the lower parts of the work. The identity of the child and parents has not been released in the past. They actually bill visitors if something is damaged.
Wow.
Hold on to your kids.
Just don't take your kids to places like that.
But I don't know.
That's an option too.
Yeah. Step number 1, I want to talk to the parents and go, excuse me.
They're not the place. For a small
Most
child.
adults don't like abstract paintings.
Yeah, when you're getting to like 7, 7 and up, they're probably fine. But
well, I remember. Have you all been to Paris before?
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I'm a nerd. I've been a bunch of different places. I'm blessed by that. Went to the Louvre. Mm-hmm. It is a bit, and if you don't know, the Louvre is the big art museum in Paris where some of the world's greatest works are held. A bunch of Da Vinci's. Right? Yeah, it's got the Mona Lisa. The Venus de Milo is there. The Code of Hammurabi, the first written code of laws, is there. I stumbled on that. It's awesome. The shocking part about the Louvre, there really is, apart from the Mona Lisa, stuff's just on the wall.
Wow.
And there's like a rope, kind of, like when you're at the old-timey movie theaters, they've got like the velvet rope.
Yeah.
They got that.
yeah, that's not keeping people away.
When I was in Italy, I was in some museum. I can't even remember which one. And it's the same way. I mean, they just trust people not to get too close. And I apparently found the threshold for too close because I was just wanting a better look at this painting and an alarm went off.
Oh.
What did you do?
I wish I would die.
I ran into the next exhibit.
Yeah.
Like the stupid Americans getting too close to this painting.
I had a similar odd experience. I was in Germany, some weird town in Germany, and they had a torture museum. And I was the only one in the group that wanted to go. Shocking.
And everyone else stayed away from you after that?
Well, no, it was like there's lore about medieval torture devices. They had them there. Because, medieval Europe. Hello.
The rack where they stretch you out.
And the Iron Maiden, they had like actual stuff in there. Not the band, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was back in the day when we didn't have cell phones. So I took a walkie-talkie with me. We had little like Motorola walkie-talkies. I can't tell if this look is you've heard this story or...
I don't think I've heard this.
Whoa. Shocking. Okay, so I go through the museum, and it's fabulous. I'm alone. If I got to meet up with my group in a foreign country, so I got to use my little walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
I'm standing by the very end. There's something under a glass case. Not many things under a glass case. Something under a glass case, and there's rope around it. I pick up the walkie-talkie, and I press the button, and then like flashing lights and like alarm.
Oh, no.
And so I let go of the button and it stops. And I look around like, is someone trying to break into this place? Anyway, I'm going to call my family, push the button.
Was it picking up on like the radio signal or whatever?
Wow.
And it took me like 3 times to realize
It was you.
Oh, my goodness.
Meanwhile, I'm seeing security running in here, looking at the thing, and I realize it's me, and I'm like, boop, boop. I just walked out. I'm like, oh, American. Here we go. Walkie-talkie. It's fine. Oh, it was so embarrassing. You know that feeling, Daria. You did a very similar thing.
Yeah,
It's
I got too
horrible.
close to this painting, evidently.
So yeah, don't take your kids to art museums. Take them to children's museums.
There you go.
Yes.
But also, I mean, Lauren, how many times do you say, don't touch that, and then that means, I really would like to touch that.
Oh, touch this right here.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you have to pick them up and remove them.
It's like your whole day.
Yeah, it is.
Don't touch that. Oh, this must be fun to touch. And then you always have a kid that will almost touch things.
Look, I'm not touching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm not touching it.
Yeah, we've got 2 notorious button pushers in our house.
Okay,
wow.
do tell.
They just can't not touch buttons.
What types of buttons?
Any of them.
Like physical buttons or metaphorical buttons or both?
Both. But particularly physical buttons.
Well, also cell phone buttons. I got that nonsensical text,
Yeah, exactly.
text from somebody the other day.
Yes, my husband's office, because he works from home, the door is closed all day. All weekend, it doesn't matter, because if the door is open, a child will go in there and like clank on his keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
Or they'll
Gotta do
find
that.
like a PlayStation remote controller. They'll just everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
so PlayStation's part of his work?
No, it's just also in the same room.
I don't know. I mean, you could be like, oh, my camera really seems to be not working great today. Let me turn that off.
I'm
It's
assuming
like-
they have plenty of their own buttons that are okay to push. Like
Yeah,
toys
they
and
have
stuff.
their own pretend video game controllers.
Oh, those aren't
For the
nearly
same
as
reason.
fun.
But Dad's buttons are more fun because they're real.
Yeah.
You know, I always was a little bit bothered by, like, say you get a new cell phone or, you know, something along those lines, and Dana would want to give the old one to the kids to play with. And I'd be like, no, because that's teaching them that the cell phone is a toy. And so then my cell phone
Becoming
is
a
something
toy.
they want to play with.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, and I had a similar situation. I think I've told you this one, but when we lived in Chicago, when we first moved there, we had a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a newborn. So the first few years were little kids, little toddlers.
Mm-hmm.
My son Marshall, they get on the L, the subway, and the emergency button is right at eye level for toddlers.
Oh.
Whose idea this was, I don't know.
Someone made a mistake.
Almost every time he would, despite Sarah's best effort, she was trying, you guys. She wasn't like staring. He would get around her and push that button. It just, the way it's designed, it screamed out, please,
Yeah, it's
little
red.
children, touch me, just push me. And then it would be the conductor, like, well,
Do you have an emergency?
is everything
What's
all
your
right?
emergency?
Sorry, my kid pushed the button. Or you get in the elevator at in the subway, which might be the grossest place on earth, and you just hit, please don't touch anything, children. And they want to lick the railing, you know? And it's like, what?
I'm not touching it.
I'm not with my fingers. I think we had that once. A kid was licking a railing somewhere, and we're just like, what is this?
It's good for his immune system.
Yeah, I don't know if you were here when I told the story, but I went to a thrift store and Ellis was licking the mirror in the dressing room.
Oh, yeah. That might be another one of the grossest places on earth.
Yeah,
I love
it is.
thrift stores, but
Yeah, but the floor of a thrift store?
There's a reason you got to wash your hall when you get home. Cannot wear it first.
Yeah.
do your kids find treasures at the playground? Ever
Not
done that?
really.
Mine were obsessed for a while.
Like
I
cigarette
found a
butts?
treasure. Yeah, that's a cigarette butt. Put that down. That right there is garbage. That was like, I don't know what. Something gross, okay?
I was babysitting this kid one time. He was probably about a year old. He found the one thing in the entire yard he could not have, which was bird poop, and tried to put it in his mouth and screamed at me when I obviously would not let him put it in his mouth. And then we had to go wash our
Oh, yeah.
hands, and he was even more mad at me.
There's something about that attracts kids. I mean, one of my kids, we had a little tiny dog, grabbed that and consumed it. Sarah called poison control.
Good.
And they were like, oh, no, your child will be fine.
This happens all the time.
This is the most frequent call we receive.
No.
Oh, yeah.
It's the most frequent call we receive.
No.
Be glad that your children have pet allergies, Lauren.
That's just too much for
Having
me.
little kids is a lot. I think about you frequently when I see other people with little kids. And I'm like, there's a lot of stress with teenagers, but I don't have to worry about that stuff with my teenagers.
Yeah, little children have no survival skills. Basically, they are trying to harm themselves in all ways. That's their goal.
And then for whatever reason, it's like, I don't want to just touch this. I'd like to feel what it feels like on my tongue.
Yeah.
Whatever this is, no matter how gross it is. Oh, your hairbrush? Give me that and put it in my mouth. It's so horrible. So God bless you, Lauren.
Thank you.
All right, 6:17 coming up in just a moment. Psychology Today claims there's science behind the spiritual practice of forgiveness. We're going to look at this together in just a few.
Moody Radio Cleveland is on the air thanks to supportive listeners and Naylor Neutralawn and Landscape, serving the greater Cleveland area since 1973. More information about Naylor Neutralawn and Landscape is at nnlawn.com.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
How about this? Some actual good news on the healthcare front, even as costs just keep skyrocketing. So if you're 65 or older, MediShare now offers MediShare 65 Plus. Call them. You can talk to them about this. A lot of people are taking advantage of this now because even if you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are out-of-pocket things, deductibles and copays that just keep going up. And the whole point is to help you by giving you a low, consistent monthly payment that fills in the gaps. In fact, I can tell you how much MediShare 65 Plus is. For example, it's $99 a month up to age 75. It keeps costs under control. That helps with peace of mind. MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around for 30 years, and it's a community of people who help each other. Business owners, retirees, pastors, teachers. People love being part of it. Here's the number you can call now. They are easy to talk to. Call 833-59-SHARE. That's 833-59-SHARE. 833-59-SHARE.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to support from our listeners and businesses like Fellowship Home Loans. They'll talk about the numbers as well as your hopes, dreams, and the market's reality. Home is where the heart is. It's where families grow and where dreams are born. More information is at 800-804-7283. That's 800-804-SAVE or fellowshiphomeloans.com. Welcome home.
At home, he's the dad who Ubers his kids around town. At church, he's the drummer that plays a little too loud during worship. But here, he's the guy who asks all the questions you wouldn't. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
624 WCRF, Mornings with Brian. Very excited. We got a text just a moment ago from a brand new listener.
Woohoo!
Whee! It's April is her name, right?
Yes.
April in May.
Yeah. Her name isn't quite as cool today as it was yesterday. But
She has a whole month, so.
we ought to send her something, Lauren.
Yeah, I think I'd like to send her a Mornings with Brian tumbler.
Oh,
Whoa.
good.
Like, you know,
One of those fancy ones?
sounds like that.
The cowbell sounding ones. Yeah. Yeah, the one that you chose to get the open line version.
Yeah, I have a lot of Mornings with Brian stuff, and so when I had the opportunity, I got an open line one.
That makes sense. Although it does bring up the existential question, can you ever have enough Mornings with Brian stuff? The answer, no.
I have 6 shirts.
She's wearing one right now.
Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt with your name on it. So.
Yeah, well, you're welcome.
And I do have old tumblers from Brian and Janelle. So.
We have a lot of that kind of stuff laying around.
Yeah, so I got lots of stuff.
I get passive-aggressive comments from my mother regularly whenever
'Cause
she
she has
sees
Brian
new
Janelle stuff?
products.
Oh.
And she lives so far away, I don't see her that often. I don't readily have them available.
Oh, give me your address. I can send her a
we'll
little
send
care
Sandy
package.
some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll become friends with Daria now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, be careful. She's friendly, Daria. She's going to become your
Why
new
is
BFF.
that? Be careful.
You think I'm afraid of friends?
I don't know. Some
Friendly
people have
people-
limits.
Friendly people are good.
Yeah, they are good. She ended up like messaging and I think texting with Janelle after a while.
Huh?
I was like, Mom, you could talk to me.
She doesn't want to talk to you.
No, she doesn't. She spent way too much time with me. One of her great struggles in life was trying to get me to talk less as a child.
Yeah.
Gabby.
Yes. You know the Gabby thing.
Yeah,
I
I've got a
won't-
gabber. I've got a gabber and a mover.
But you know the Gabby story.
Oh, yes, uh-huh.
The very brief version for those who don't know, because now I'm being rude to them, is my mom and dad got me a book for Christmas in my stocking. It was a paperback book. It's called Gabby. Go look it up. It's about a little furry creature who nobody wanted to be friends with it because it talked too much.
Oh, no.
And it didn't get any friends until it learned to be quiet.
Oh, no.
Sad.
My parents and I actually just recently had a very similar conversation about how much I talked as a kid. I'm like, well, now it pays the bills, so.
Yeah, so
There you go.
fine.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it all works out.
Oh.
But yeah, you have a talker. That
Yeah,
Trey.
he's a chatty guy.
How do you get a break?
I have to ask him to stop talking.
That's what my mom does. And she would do it in the car. Okay, Brian, we're going to have some silence now.
Yeah. The thing about the car right now is he loves listening to music in the car.
Oh.
What's he listen to?
Right now it's I Like to Move It, Move It. So.
Oh, my kids used to love that one.
Send prayers for me.
Honestly, there are worse things he could be listening
It's
to.
true.
Was it from the movie or whatever he picked that
Yeah,
up?
Madagascar. He's never seen it. It just came up on like some children's playlist or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
And it caught his ear.
One of my
course
kids
it did.
thought it was I like to mobit is what one
What
of my
is that?
kids thought.
That's not a word.
No one knows what that means. But
So his thing is he wants you to turn it up real, like quite loud.
He wants to feel the bass.
Yeah, he wants to feel it. But then he talks and is asking me questions all the way through, so I have to turn it down. And then he says something and he's like, you can turn it back up now. I'm like,
Can I now?
turn it down, turn it up. Turn it down so I can talk, turn it up. So then I say, you need to pick if you'd like to talk right now or if you'd like to listen to music right now.
does
You
that
gotta
work?
pick. No.
Yeah, I don't think my mom ever found a successful way.
Hashtag pray for Lauren.
But then, you get older and then teenage boys don't talk to you much.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind him talking. It's like you can't do it all at the same time as every other noise.
Oh, right.
The
And-
vacuum's going, so I'm going to scream, talk at you. No, just wait till the vacuum's done.
Well, then, and he would also not allow you time to finish,
Correct.
right? Answering a question.
Yeah, no, he doesn't let me. He doesn't.
He's not
he
really
just goes
interested in the
question
answer.
to question to question. Yeah.
He just wants to ask questions.
That's right.
And they're more rhetorical in his life.
Yeah.
He's not concerned about the answer. He's just going to get the questions out.
Yeah, he's very Socratic.
Wow, it sounds like he could be a good lawyer.
Maybe.
We've been
Just
watching
talk
the
over him.
practice lately, and that seems to be the method of operation for a lot of them. It's before the witness can finish answering the question.
Next question.
Yeah.
Jump in there.
He's got a future. Look at that kid.
He does.
His dad likes legal type things.
Yes, he does.
So he's got his mom's chattiness in his dad's brain. Is that what we have?
Maybe.
Yeah, because you're chatty when you're comfortable with people, right?
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people have that barrier, You come across as shy, perhaps, at first.
Yeah, in groups I don't know.
But a lot of people act that way. Not Trey, though.
And I also just want to like sit around and talk about myself. So it's like, well, I'll just sit here.
Yeah, and you need to gather a few clues before you can ask questions
Yeah.
about the other people.
That's right.
That's true. Okay, so anyway, yay, April. Hope you enjoy your new Tumblr. We love hearing from you, by the way. The number 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. You could also send tips on how Lauren can get breaks from the talking. Not at work.
Any new songs suggestions I should, put into his repertoire?
Someone just said you should turn on No Fear by John Reddick.
Oh, okay.
Says their kids love it.
Oh, I'll try it.
Or Audio Adrenaline, Big Big House.
Oh, that's a classic.
He does like Reliant K, so.
Okay.
There's something beautiful about teaching
Sunny
kids
with a high of
to
75, particularly.
Yeah, like having kids enjoy older stuff that you like. It's always a
that
trick.
feels better. It's like, I don't mind listening to this.
It's better than having them go, let's listen to Bluey in the show.
Yeah, Bluey Dance Mode. Thank you. That's another one.
Or Baby Shark.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Even better before that.
Wish I didn't, but.
What does the fox say?
Oh.
That was the whole thing on the show for a while. Ron, what does the fox say again? Ring ding 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 ding. You should try that one. What does the fox say?
I'm not introducing that to him.
Does he know Baby Shark?
Yeah, he doesn't really care for it.
You're lucky.
He's right at the what does the fox say age.
Yeah, we're not gonna. He's gonna have to find that on his own somehow.
Maybe Uncle Brian could show it to him.
Maybe. I'm not letting you into my house. Oh, Brian's here. Close the door.
Yeah. How could I get him to? He usually rides in the car at a certain time during the show. I wonder if Ron could play a clip of it while he's riding with your husband. Yes.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Again, tips to Lauren, 440-546-2255. When we come back, we will actually get to the science of forgiveness.
I'm Cindy Farini, and this is Pause for Prayer. In my utmost for his highest, I have a direct quote from Oswald Chambers. Quote, "We have to go the second mile with God. Some of us get played out in our first 10 yards because God compels us to go where we cannot see the way, and we say, I will wait until I get near that big crisis. If we do not do the running steadily in the little ways, we shall do nothing in the crisis." Unquote. Let's pause for prayer. Thank you, Lord, for those who've obeyed you in the little things and for the ways you directed them. Sometimes you've asked us to obey in little ways, like making someone a meal, writing a note, making a call, sending an email, composing a text, checking in with someone that you've put on our heart, and so many other ways. You've helped us to do the work in little ways that should then prepare us for the big times of crisis. Without following you in these little things, the big crisis times in our lives or in the lives of those we love, we will be missing our opportunity to help and serve because we didn't build up the muscles to do the harder work all along the way. Lord, show us the little things in which to be faithful so that when you call us to minister through a crisis, death of a loved one, losses, and so forth, we will be ready. We will be ready with the abilities and capabilities because we have put in the work even when we didn't know that we were going to be called ahead of time. You have prepared us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Encourage Foster Care is a private, faith-based foster care agency located in 13 counties throughout Northeast and Central Ohio. Every month, Encourage receives dozens of requests for foster homes in Northeast Ohio. Due to the lack of foster homes, they are forced to turn away up to 80 children a month. Encourage is currently working to expand their services and support. Learn how you can be a part of the solution and help create hope for the community at buildinghopecampaign.org.
Hey, my name's Brant Hansen. I'm an author and radio guy who did something about 15 years ago that changed my life. That is when I first visited a Cure International Children's Hospital. What Cure is doing to heal the sick and proclaim the kingdom is so brilliant. It's so profound. It is the most Jesus-shaped ministry I've ever seen. More people need to know about it, so I'm really glad you're hearing about it right now on Moody Radio. Please check it out online. It's cure.org/Moody. That's cure.org/Moody.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
6:36. This is Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Whether it's your faith or your health, you don't have to journey alone. Lauren, we have a trend apparently on text right now.
We are trendsetters.
Oh, of course.
Well, obviously.
Actually, April's a trendsetter because we have a new texter, another one, a second one. Kaylin in Cleveland.
Kaylin! What's up, Kaylin?
Hey, Kaylin. We're going to send you some stuff too.
Yay. All right, so we're talking about the science of forgiveness today, just for a little bit.
All day.
Yeah, the whole thing. Buckle up. Could you imagine? Oh, boy. I think I'd leave early if that's what we were going to do. But hey, before we get to that, though, I got to remind you about our Mother's Day giveaway.
Yeah.
It's big.
Big deal.
It's a huge value. It could be for you if you're a mom. You can win it for yourself, or you can win it for your mom or whoever. It includes two things: a spa gift card to Lux Spa in Chagrin Falls for all the spa thingies that happen. I don't know. You just probably
a sugar scrub.
Sugar?
Yes.
It exfoliates your skin.
Put sugar on your face and scrub it?
Yeah, or like, I don't know, your legs or something, your feet.
Yeah, it's probably too harsh
hands.
for your face.
I feel like it's a mysterious place.
Yes.
That I don't know what happens in there. And you say things like, is there cucumbers on eyes there?
Probably.
I don't know why anyone does that. It's so weird.
It's supposed to help with the swelling.
Yeah.
There's
the
rocks
puffiness.
that are hot, and then the hot rocks are put on your back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone takes out the cheese grater, but it's not for cheese.
Yep.
It's for your
It's
feet.
for feet. Mm-hmm.
And cupping. Remember when the Olympic swimmers were cupping and they had all those purple
dots,
hickeys on their body?
Yeah, I don't want to go in there. But
Well,
girls
it's
like it.
not for you.
Yeah, moms like it.
Yeah.
So
They can get a massage.
And then dinner.
Yes.
Because there's also a restaurant gift card. You want to enter for your chance to win? Text the word MOM to 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. So there's a principle that a lot of Christians don't consider, because a lot of Christians are anti-science. There's like a fear that Christians have had of science over the years.
God created science.
Yes.
Right. And I kind of first picked up on this from our friends at Reasons to Believe, because what they are is they're primarily people that study sciences from a faith perspective, right? Whether it's physical sciences or astrophysics or whatever.
Yeah, if there's anything like, oh, there's this new thing we found in the DNA. Yeah, it's because God did that. He made that.
That's their whole thing.
Mm-hmm. God made that.
In a larger sense, their idea is that if you believe God's the creator, God will be reflected as you study the creation.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we sometimes forget the depth and breadth of creation. As in, if you study the human brain and the physical body, it ought to reflect the creator in principle and in practice. And so Psychology Today wrote a piece called The Science of Forgiveness, How Letting Go Heals You. At first blush, shouldn't surprise us at all that God designed forgiveness, something that he invented that is the key to salvation, right? He invented it, and it's healthy for us to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's unhealthy for us to not do it. So here's some of the science, and then we're going to evaluate some of their advice here. So research shows that forgiveness is deeply connected to well-being. When we hold on to grudges, our bodies respond by staying in a state of heightened stress. High cortisol levels triggered by constant resentment or anger take a toll on the body. The unresolved pain can lead to high blood pressure, weakened immunity, and even heart disease. Unforgiveness can damage your physical body. Research has also found that when people actively forgive, their cortisol levels drop significantly. After forgiving, individuals experience better health, improved sleep, and reduced risk of chronic illness. I could keep going, but this should not surprise us. This is God's design. When science looks at it and goes, hey, guess what, guys? We just discovered something. You should forgive people. And Jesus is like, who do you forgive? Everybody, because I forgave you. All right. So,
and how many times?
70 times 7, which is the fancy old-timey way of saying
a lot. Infinite.
Yeah. Other people are doing a math problem. It's like 490 times. Did you hear what I just did? Right?
I don't know.
That's not right.
I'm not a mather.
Was that right?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened there.
I'm not a math lady, so I just trusted that you were right.
I think there was like a prophetic moment. Yeah. Like, I don't know that I can repeat that. I don't even know how it happened, Lauren.
I'm proud of you.
The Spirit descended upon you like a dove.
It must have been.
The math
he gave
came
you
out.
the math.
So then the writer at Psychology Today goes through myths about forgiveness and science-backed steps. for forgiveness. But I thought we could evaluate that as believers. Because just because they're recognizing God's truth doesn't mean they're going to give good advice. So here we go. Myth number 1, according to scientists. Forgiveness means condoning bad behavior. It's a myth, they said. Do we agree?
It is. Yeah, that's a myth.
Yeah, you can forgive somebody, but sometimes you still need to keep them at arm's length.
Yeah, and they say forgiveness doesn't excuse or ignore past behavior. You can forgive someone and move forward while still remembering what they did in the past. But remembering what someone did doesn't feel loving, right? Because as 1 Corinthians 13 said, love keeps no record of wrong.
I mean, I don't think you should be dwelling on it, because if you're still dwelling, then you probably haven't forgiven. But if someone has just been absolutely horrible to you, then yeah, it's okay that they're not a super present part of your life.
Yeah, if someone is a survivor of abuse and they make the choice to forgive that person, that doesn't mean you have to go to dinner with that person that's abused you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Christians make that odd assertion, or they have that odd belief.
And I don't think anyone should expect you to go to dinner with that person.
Well, and then at the next level, it's the idea of forgetting. Like when I read 1 Corinthians 13 about love keeps no record of wrong, I view that, this is just Brian's theology, you can tell me if I'm crazy, that means you don't use the past as a weapon in the present.
Right. We're not keeping a score, a tally.
You don't go
You've
to Eddie.
You've hurt me 4 times, so I'm going to hurt you 4 times.
Or even more than that, where you're constantly bringing up to Eddie.
Yeah.
Remember, Eddie, when you did that to me?
Yep.
You're doing it again.
Well, you forgave me, so you should forgive me, and we move forward from there.
But you don't necessarily have to forget what he did.
No.
Because sometimes, guess what? You can't.
Yeah.
It's just you're almost choosing in that moment that you remember to forgive one more time. So, okay, we agree with that. Myth number 2, they say. Forgiveness requires reconciliation. That's a myth, they said.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a process. I would say you need to work towards reconciliation, but just to forgive, you don't have to reconcile. That can come later in the process. They don't happen at the same time.
Yeah, they say it in Psychology Today, you can set boundaries or even cut someone out of your life while still forgiving them. I don't know if we want to go that far. You can.
You can.
But that should be the exception for a believer, not the rule, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're saying we should work towards it.
Yeah.
However, I've heard Dr. Rydelnik talk about that reconciliation can come after restitution.
They've made it right.
Yeah, like if someone is truly sorry and they've asked for your forgiveness and they want to reconcile, they're going to make it right.
Yeah, like if they said something mean to you in front of other people, they need to also go to those other people and apologize to those people they did it in front of, not just you.
Yeah, and correct the message.
Yeah.
And if they won't do that, how do we handle that?
Well, I still think we're called to forgive them, but I think it would make it hard to move forward with them.
So we may not have to fully
because
reconcile.
They're still, if they're like spreading lies about you, they're still letting those lies continue.
So that's where we could see a situation where it would make sense to forgive but not reconcile.
Yeah, and I think reconciliation is an even longer process than forgiveness.
Yeah, it's hard. Another myth that they claim exists: forgiveness happens instantly.
Yeah, that's a really big one. I've heard a lot in Christian circles. The truth is, some hurts take you a long time to get past, and it takes a lot of praying and soul work to be able to forgive someone if they've deeply hurt you.
Yeah, but I feel like Christian culture often makes us feel pressure that forgiveness is instant.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know. I don't know if these people have never been deeply hurt or if they're just minimizing their own pain and feelings, but there are absolutely instances where it might take years. I've known pastors that have admitted it took me 20 years to forgive this guy. It's daily praying, and it took a lot out of me.
And also sometimes you might have to forgive multiple times.
What do you
Because
mean?
you realize you forgave them and you realize 5 years down the road, you're once again starting to harbor things against this person.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to forgive them again.
Yeah, and yet I think where some of the bad theology comes in, maybe, it's just my theory, the way we want to teach our children about the process of repentance and forgiveness. I've heard kids do this where you teach them, so they go, say you're sorry, okay, and now tell them you forgive them. And so I've heard kids go, I'm sorry, you have to forgive me.
Yeah.
And I think that creates this thing in our mind where we've learned the process of repentance and forgiveness, and yet, we don't have to do it right away.
And also, so they like to quote scripture where it says, if you don't forgive, then, your Father in heaven won't forgive you. working towards forgiveness is not the same as refusing to forgive someone. If I'm acknowledging that I need to forgive this person and I'm genuinely working through it and praying through it, that is not the same as intentionally harboring resentment and saying, I'm never going to let this go.
I've always thought of it as like, at first, it's an intellectual decision. It's Jesus forgave me. I needed it. Still need it today. I'm going to forgive this person. Lord, help me feel it.
Yeah.
It's the emotional acceptance of it that can be a very long process.
Yeah, sometimes it takes your emotions a long time to catch up.
That's a good way
like,
to put it.
it's a reality. I feel like this even in my personal relationships. I know that we've resolved this issue between us, but I just need some time for my emotions to catch up.
That's good.
With what I know is true and reality now.
Mm-hmm. I wonder why that's such a hard truth for us to embrace as Christians. We feel that pressure to forgive immediately. It is a process. That should set somebody free today.
Yeah.
There is a way to forgive someone and not feel it yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just takes time sometimes.
It feels insincere,
because they hurt
though.
you. So
Yeah.
you still have hurt. The forgiving someone doesn't make the hurt go away. So you're still healing from being hurt.
And that's where, circling back, when we talk about love keeps no record of wrong, when the wrong done to you comes back into your mind, you're not sinning. It's what you do with that. Do you blurt it out at the person that hurt you again after they've already apologized? Or are you going to go, Lord, help me forgive them?
Yeah.
I think that's what that means. And I'm looking at Lauren because she's our Moody graduate.
Yes.
And she didn't correct me.
No.
Yet.
You're correct.
Did you get that, Ron?
I did. Let me mark it.
But you didn't specify, Brian, you're correct. So we could use that for anyone.
For anybody. Correct.
So I can just take where she said Brian somewhere else in the day. Move it over there.
You totally could.
Smash it all together.
6:48 coming up here in just a couple of minutes. What we'll do is we'll shift gears a bit in this concept of forgiveness. Psychology Today, again, pointed out, they're like, hey, look at science and research of the brain shows it's actually healthy to do what God told you to do. Okay? So
God made brains.
Yes, he did. And we learned about the myths about forgiveness. Next, they suggest steps to forgive. Are they biblical, though? We'll get to that in a few minutes.
There are many ways to say,
I love you, Mom. I love you, Mommy. I love you, Mom.
we have an idea. Enter our Moments with Mom contest for a chance to give your mom, mother figure, or yourself a $550 gift package, a gift certificate for a day at the spa, and a $100 gift card to a variety of restaurants will go to a mother who reflects the love of Christ. Go to moodyradio.org/Cleveland or text MOM to 440-546-2255. We'd love to help you say,
I love you, Mom.
In this culture full of contradictions and false teachings, how do we align our hearts with God and His Word? For answers, we have a letter for you to read. Paul's letters to the Ephesians and Colossians. This May, join Today in the Word and devotional author David Sutton for our study, Chosen in Christ. Join this month's study. Go to todayintheword.com or download the new and improved Today in the Word app.
Download the all-new app at todayintheword.org or in your app store.
Every day, thousands of children and families face hunger, poverty, and hardship. For 75 years, World Vision has been following Jesus and serving the poor, believing in a world where children are free from poverty and equipped to reach their God-given potential. And you can be part of this work, helping children and families gain access to essentials like clean water, education, healthcare, and nutritious food. Discover how you can show Jesus' love to children in need by visiting worldvision.org/radio.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
WCRF. We got a new podcast episode out this week. The Mornings with Brian podcast features highlights from the show of some great content. It's not a whole show. It'd only take you about 20 to 30 minutes to listen through. We want it to be digestible. Daria, what'd you pull together this week? You remember?
So this week we have I'm Working My Life Away, honest conversations on career, purpose, and faith. We had a couple people call in with questions about work. Someone said they felt like they were working their life away. Someone else said, I'm stuck in a job that I hate. What do I do? Jamie Buxton's actually on that episode. So
she's great.
Go check that out. You can text the word podcast to us at 440-546-2255.
We've been
Guest star.
Oh, guest star. Yeah, she is a star. She's the czar of fun at City Mission. Okay, so Psychology Today wrote a piece about forgiveness. I love when this happens when psychologists, people who study the brain, they're scientists of some sort, discover, look at this. Forgiveness is good for you. It's good for your physical health. Yeah, duh, God made the body, so no surprise. We got a good question about forgiveness that came in.
What if the person never apologized to you when clearly they were wrong?
That is tough.
That's probably the hardest scenario.
Really hurts.
And I would say the hardest version of that is someone who you can tell knows they hurt you.
And doesn't care.
Yeah, like we've all encountered the person. I had somebody once come to me and say, Brian, I want you to know I forgive you. And I was like, oh no, what did I do? Like I never knew what I did. I didn't even remember doing it. But when someone hurts you and they know they did it and they won't be sorry, how do you guys handle that?
That, I think, is cause for boundaries, distancing. You have to let go in your heart. You have to forgive them for your sake. But you don't have to stay in proximity of them where you can continue to be hurt just by their presence. You know, just seeing them probably hurts you because you know what they intentionally did to you.
Unfortunately, though, that doesn't mean that you get a free pass on forgiving them just because they're not sorry.
Yeah, and it's so hard to work through forgiveness on that.
Yeah, I think that's probably even harder. Sometimes it's hard to forgive someone who is sorry and is genuinely repentant. But yeah, it's even harder when they either don't know or don't care that they've hurt you.
I would say in those situations, there's a couple of things you can do. One of them is, first of all, tell God how mad you are about it. But then I would say you got to preach the gospel to yourself. And that's simply reminding yourself that you needed Jesus yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and you will need him forever. And many of the ways you've hurt him, you'll never actually know you did it. And some of the ways you do know, you know, it's like
and you still don't ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. And so we do to Jesus what that person does to us. And that should give you a little pause to consider that it's possible to do it. Doesn't mean it's easy. And then I got to be honest, there was a time not too long ago when I was really having a hard time working towards, not forgiving completely, but working towards forgiveness for some people who really wronged me and didn't care. And I ended up going to a metro park, and I don't even hike. So this was a really weird thing for me to do. I had to get out of my regular environment. And
get out of your routine.
I went out of my routine and I went on a hike, and I forced myself to pray for these people and think about and try to see them in those prayers for these people the way God sees them. Like one of them, I remember saying, you know, I've seen online, Lord, that this guy loves his kids. And, you know, he's such a great father. I pray for, you know, it was hard for me to do this because I was so mad at them. That process released something in me. Not that I walked away going, oh, there I did it. I forgave them.
It's still a journey.
No, it's still a journey. But
every day.
It took me over that hump of unforgiveness. I could actually agree that I'm on the journey at that point.
And you can agree that I do need to forgive them. Sometimes before that, you don't even think that you should, that they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
But kind of after that, you're able to say, they do deserve it, and I'm going to work towards it.
And what's that? There's that famous saying about poison. If you unforgiveness is
like
drinking poison, expecting the other person to die.
Yes.
I always kind of know famous sayings, but I never quite.
Poison?
Something about the poison. Yeah, it's true.
Poison killed Cusco. Cusco's poison.
The poison specifically chosen for Cusco.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I think I know. Classic Disney film, The Emperor's New Groove.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes!
Cusco.
David Spade did
Cusco's
the voice
voicing.
of the whatever. One
Yeah,
of
but
them.
this was Kronk. What's his name? Patrick Warburton or whatever?
Yeah, that's such an era of Disney that many people my age and older are not familiar with. I don't know why I even know it.
You should
It's a
familiarize
shame. It's a
yourself.
great movie.
Isn't it a play on The Emperor Has No Clothes?
I don't know.
No, not quite.
No?
No, I've seen it, but I don't remember a whole lot about it.
There's a llama?
Yes.
Not an alpaca.
No, it's a llama.
No.
And
it named Dolly?
No.
No. It's Cusco.
Best dad joke I've heard today. Ron Eastwood with your favorite dad joke.
No, it's only 7 a.m.
Dolly the llama. Oh my goodness, I want a llama now. Just so I can name it Dolly. Oh boy. Woo! Okay.
Well, you've got the room.
Perhaps we'll get to more on forgiveness a little bit later, but
Do donkeys and llamas get along? Probably. Why wouldn't they?
I don't know. They both
well, donkeys
seem a
are supposed to
little
protect, right? So.
Well, right, but they're both a little persnickety.
Yeah.
Like llamas will spit at you if they don't like you,
Well,
which is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
You ever been spit at by a llama?
no.
And you're calling it fun?
No.
Ugh.
My buddy got hit by it though, so I was okay.
Sick.
Oh,
thought it was pretty
so
funny.
that was fun.
Yeah. There's an alpaca farm not too far from me out in the, I think in Manaway area.
Let's go take one from there.
Sarah
I love
won't-
alpacas. They're so soft.
Sarah won't let me.
That's a shame.
She says we have enough animals.
Just the 3? Well, you got the 2 dogs.
Yeah, and then
And the
there's,
chickens and the barn cat.
Well, the
Yeah.
chickens you let loose, so
we have 2 roosters left. I don't like them though.
that's not the ones you want to keep.
No, it's not. Maybe I've talked to her about maybe I could trade some stuff, some animals. And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
like, well, you could work that.
Farm swap.
If anyone has an alpaca, they'll give me.
For 2 roosters.
I'll
In
take it.
exchange for some roosters.
Or just for funsies.
ISO llama will give 2 roosters.
I should do you can do wanted things on Facebook
Wanted
Marketplace,
llama.
right?
Yeah, in search of.
You know there's rescue places where there's a bunch of like pot-bellied pigs and old horses you can get for almost nothing?
No.
Yeah, like there's like animal sanctuaries because people buy pot-bellied pigs and think they're cute little things and then they
But
turn
then
into
they-
big pigs.
Yeah.
They're small compared to like,
Sure.
500-pound pigs. But if you want a pot-bellied pig, Lauren,
I like when their ears flop when they run. Like this.
yeah. So anyway, all that to say, forgive.
That's right.
It's 7:01. It's time for Ron's News. We'll be back with more in just a few minutes.
Loving God with our hearts and our minds. It's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios on Moody Radio Cleveland. WCRF Cleveland. WVMS Sandusky. WVML Millersburg. WVMN Newcastle. WVME Meadville. WVMU Ashtabula. And with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
Ukraine and the U.S. have signed a minerals agreement. It's 7:02. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. It means the U.S. will have access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. The Trump administration says the deal will also address the $175 billion in aid that the U.S. has given Ukraine since the start of its war with Russia and establishes an economic partnership. Mayfield-based Progressive Insurance says they are planning to hire more than 12,000 new employees this year. The company says they're experiencing a time of continued growth, bringing about the need for a larger workforce. Most of these jobs will be remote. And the National Association of Letter Carriers is holding their annual Stamp Out Hunger food drive this month. Postal workers will be collecting donations of non-perishable food items. Those who would like to contribute are asked to place a sturdy bag containing shelf-stable foods near their mailbox before the mail runs on Saturday, May 10th. In sports, the Guardians doubled up the Twins 4-2, and the Pirates edged the Cubs 4-3. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Mostly cloudy today. There's a chance of showers and thunderstorms this morning, and then showers with thunderstorms are likely this afternoon. Some of those thunderstorms may produce gusty winds this afternoon. It's going to be warmer with our high temperature in the upper 70s. At last check, partly cloudy skies, 52 degrees in Cleveland, 56 Akron and Canton, just 44 in Lorain and Elyria.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
Mental Health Awareness Month is celebrated in May. The stigma around mental health and treatment has long existed, even though this has started to change. Still, some people hesitate to seek help or even talk about it with their loved ones for fear of being judged and facing unnecessary backlash. Simple logic dictates that if we're hurt anywhere, we must seek treatment to get better. Let's normalize mental health care. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:04. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
This is WCRF Mornings with Brian. It's 7:09. We're 1 hour away from David Szfranski being here to answer your financial
1 hour
questions.
away.
Yeah, hold your breath. He's coming. Well, actually, don't. It's not healthy to hold your breath that long. You know, figuratively speaking, hold your breath. And you can text in your questions, 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. I have some Easter leftovers, literally and figuratively. I feel like the cured ham is still good.
That is not still in your fridge.
There's a little bit.
Ham is good for a pretty long time.
It's cured.
Yeah. I don't.
Which means it's good. It's like the nuclear apocalypse.
I'm not
surviving.
It's cured. It's not sick anymore.
No, ham is good for ham is good in the fridge for a little while.
Okay, so I feel like since I still have some Easter ham, I can do a little bit of Easter leftovers here on
Do
the show.
whatever you want.
Because Dr. Russell Moore wrote a piece that made me re-examine a portion of Scripture I don't think about very often.
We should be talking about the crucifixion all year round, not just at Easter.
Amen.
We really should, yeah. Just like
So
every
it's
day's
not
Christmas. Yeah. Well, but you know what I mean. Talking about the thief on the cross, people are like, Brian, he's risen.
So last week.
He's risen indeed. You said it that way first.
No, you did the two parts by yourself. He's risen indeed. You did to yourself.
Okay, fun. I didn't mean to. So most people, as Russell Moore put it, look at the thief on the cross, the one who was converted. He says that he's seen as the poster boy for the deathbed conversion, the face of the last-minute participation prize. He is the anyone Christ can save in Scripture. Like we view him as the, boy, if you think you can't be saved, look at that guy.
Yeah.
What a mess.
We do use him as an example for a lot of things.
And yet Russell thinks we should re-examine. I call him Russell, Russ, when I'm chatting with him. He thinks we need to totally rethink the way we view this guy. Okay, so in order to do that well, the lovely and talented Lauren Cuevas is going to remind us of that passage of the thief on the cross.
Yes. 2 others, both criminals, were led out to be executed with him. When they came to the place called the Skull, parentheses, you may have heard this called Golgotha or Calvary, all 3 the same. When they came to the place called the Skull, they nailed him to the cross, and the criminals were also crucified, one on his right and one on his left. Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. And the soldiers gambled for his clothes by throwing dice. The crowd watched, and the leaders scoffed. He saved others, they said. Let him save himself if he's really God, Messiah, the chosen one. The soldiers mocked him, too, by offering him a drink of sour wine. They called him out. If you are king of the Jews, save yourself. A sign was fastened above him with these words, quote, This is the king of the Jews. One of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed. So you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself, and us too, while you're at it. But the other criminal protested, Don't you fear God even when you've been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes, but this man hasn't done anything wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus replied, I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise.
Such a great story. And again, we go to that primarily when we want to go, you don't think you can be saved? Look at this guy. Which is kind of a bummer legacy. He's kind of up there with doubting Thomas. It's like I always feel bad for Thomas. There are so many great passages where Thomas displayed courage and strength, and yet we call him doubting Thomas now.
Yeah.
You know? So Russell wants us to see this guy who, again, we don't know if this is true, but he's referred to in history and tradition as Saint Dismas. The guy's name's supposed to be Dismas. Who knows if it was or not, okay? But we're going to call him that. That he was not only, he should be a companion for the one who has sinned, but an example of faith and courage for the one who faithfully suffers. So here's his basic thesis for this. We're going to see if we agree with it. First of all, I guess when you look at Matthew and Mark and the word they chose, the Greek word for labeling him a thief was actually not the Greek word for thief, which is club. I'm not even going to try. Who knows? I don't speak Greek. They chose a different word, which the Bible translates as robber. And in this case, it's the same one that they would use in the same word for the parable of the Good Samaritan. And it's also, like he goes on to say, ultimately, that it's a similar label used for Barabbas. As in, he said, it's highly likely, we don't know for sure, that the 2 men being crucified with Jesus were compatriots of Barabbas. And Barabbas was a revolutionary who was trying to overthrow the Roman occupation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, anyone going against that government that was going to happen. They were known for their violence.
And yet at the same time, there's we know about Roman rule. Roman rule was very oppressive. If you tried to challenge their rule, they would nail you to a cross.
Right.
And so there's a sense in which if we just view him as a guy who held up a bank, that may not be an accurate picture. He's a guy who was looking perhaps to fight for his people and wanted to overthrow the Roman government, who was waiting for a Messiah, so to speak. Which I'd never thought of him that way before. I always kind of thought of him as he's some jerk who punched a
I was
grandma.
he's a murderer. So
Yeah, punched a grandma, took her purse.
Mm-hmm.
But really, he's not a murderer. That's not why he's there. He's labeled as a thief.
Yeah.
He's a freedom fighter in more modern terms.
Yeah, exactly. So I saw that. I was like, oh, okay. Well, that shifts things just a little bit. Another simple principle, Russell Moore reminds us that being on the cross, the way that type of crucifixion works, it's probably the most brutal and painful way to die. That actually breathing is painful.
Yeah, they crack your ribs.
And
you have to push up on, your ankles are together.
Yep.
And then there's a nail through your ankles, and you have to push up from your ankles to get a breath in.
And
you're
pull
hanging.
up from your wrists and there's nerves right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it not only hurts your chest to breathe, but it hurts your feet and your hands.
And ultimately, you would die when you were too tired to pull yourself up to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea that this guy not only spoke up to defend Jesus to the other, remember he was mocked by the other guy being crucified. Not only did this guy speak up to defend Jesus, but he did it loud enough for the other guy to hear it.
Good point.
Yeah, don't you fear God?
And so we picture them up there just like, hey, how's it going, buddy? No, you guys, to breathe hurts. Can you imagine how much it hurts to talk?
Or to shout.
Yeah, and so this guy endured pain deliberately to not just talk, but to yell to defend Jesus. Do I have that kind of courage and strength? I'd be over there like, ow, it hurts.
Right.
Be nice to him. Be nice.
I probably wouldn't even be thinking about him.
Right.
I'd be thinking about myself.
I might even be yelling at him with the other guy.
Yeah.
But this guy did, and he did more than just that when you look at this story. He didn't just endure pain, extra pain, to yell to defend Jesus. He took it a step further, and we're going to get into more of that here in just a few minutes.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard joining MediShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MediShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network, so yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Poverty is one of the most urgent challenges of our time. Over 700 million people around the world live in extreme poverty, surviving on less than $2.15 per day. World Vision is tackling the root causes of poverty by partnering with communities to implement sustainable solutions like access to clean water, healthcare, and nutritious food, so every child can grow into who God meant them to be. You can be part of showing Jesus love and bringing hope for the future. Visit worldvision.org/radio to get started.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland. Looking at today's issues through a biblical perspective.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
WCRF. Don't forget to enter our Mother's Day contest. For yourself, if you're a mom, or the mom in your life, you could win a huge pile of prizes worth over $550. It's a gift card to Lux Spa in Chagrin Falls, and then a restaurant gift card where you get to choose between, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 or 5 fancy restaurants.
And I know one of the restaurants is in Chagrin Falls, so you could just do like a whole day thing.
Oh, wow. Very fancy pants. You want to enter for your chance to win? Text MOM to 440-546-2255. Right now, we're looking at, we're re-examining through some of the writing of Dr. Russell Moore, I think. Actually, no, it's not him. It's Tori Campbell. Anyway, this person in Christianity Today.
You've been saying Russell Moore for like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but part of that is because it had like this insert in here from Russell Moore that I misinterpreted.
And he's the editor-in-chief, so he had to
it's all
have
from him.
some
He at least
input.
looked at it.
Yada, yada, yada. It's this person. So re-examining the life and influence and biblical perspective on a guy named St. Dismas. Not sure if it's his real name, but he's essentially the thief on the cross who defended Jesus and got saved at the last minute. And he's usually the poster child for deathbed conversions. But this writer's like, no, we need to look at him differently. As in, he was probably a revolutionary, not walking around slapping babies and punching grandmas. He's probably a colleague of Barabbas. For him to defend Jesus was a painful decision because of what it feels like to be on a cross. But how about this one? We don't often reflect on the idea that it's so profound that while in the midst of some of the most excruciating pain a human being could experience, and probably being crucified for something that's not worth the death penalty, he owned his crime.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. But he said, no, I did commit a crime.
Yeah, as this person wrote, despite the inhumane mode of his death, he seems to reckon with the fact that he is reaping the wages of a life lived for violence.
Mm-hmm.
He's up there on a cross. Who deserves that? And he ultimately says, we're getting what we deserve.
Yeah, even if you it's for like the better good or a better cause, if it's a law against your government, you're still breaking the law.
Yeah. When's the last time we heard about an execution where the person says, I'm getting what I deserve?
Mm-hmm.
Never.
And this guy did that.
Very rare. Yeah.
And yet we want to make him some in fact, Daria, you were reminding me about an often heard phrase about this guy, right? People are kind of mad about it.
Yeah, not just this guy, but in general, it doesn't sit well with some Christians that you can come to Christ on your deathbed. And it's like, well, look at me, God. I've, followed you faithfully my entire life, and this person can just live wickedly, and at the 11th hour, they can convert. And what I hear them saying is, look at all the fun I missed out on.
Yeah, it's not fair that they get to wait till the end.
Yeah.
Which is so messed up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Lauren can't even. Right? Is that my interpreting your emotions?
Yeah. It's not fair. You know what's not fair?
You getting to go to heaven, regardless
all.
of when
That's
you...
right.
Regardless of when you got saved.
Exactly. You know what's not fair is Jesus dying for you is not fair to Jesus.
Yeah, and how many Christians who, if they were executed, could, in the midst of excruciating pain, declare for everyone to hear, I'm getting what I deserve.
Wouldn't be me.
Right. So think of the courage this guy has and the spiritual clarity. And then here's the point the writer made that really got me, because I've never thought about it this way with the thief on the cross. Everyone abandoned Jesus, even his disciples, except for John, right, and a couple of women. Even his disciples were disoriented. They were like, wait a minute, I thought you were the conquering Messiah. Jesus told them he was going to die, and he didn't believe them, and they didn't believe him.
He spent 3 years pouring into these guys, and they still didn't know who he was.
The resurrection hasn't happened yet. We read this passage with hindsight bias. We read it knowing Christ will conquer death and rise again.
They don't know that, yeah.
And so the writer
still
says
believe him.
here that there's a prophetic sense to this guy's words, too. Present-day readers may take Jesus' resurrection for granted, but few, if any, of his first-century followers anticipated the crucifixion of the Messiah, let alone the resurrection. In that respect, he was the first person to understand and believe that the cross of Christ did not negate the kingdom of God. He looked at a dying Messiah, believed in who he was while he was dying, and believed that he was still king and asked to be with him in paradise.
Those closest to him didn't believe he had the ability to raise Lazarus from the dead, let alone himself.
He was perhaps the first person to fully embrace who Jesus was. Right? I've never thought about it in this lens until today.
Well, what about his disciples?
Peter was so scared and so disoriented, he denied knowing Jesus at all.
Oh, yeah, that's Peter.
So you've got John, okay, and the women, but in terms of like...
People outside of his core group?
People outside of his core group. You've got a guy that hasn't even experienced the resurrection yet and seen it. Thomas wanted to touch Jesus' wounds before he believed in who he really was and that it was true that he conquered death. This guy believed.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Because you think like the inner three, Peter, James, and John, they were there to see Jairus' daughter raised from the dead.
Yes.
And then the bigger group of 12 or maybe more saw Lazarus come out of the grave. And so people were seeing his power along with the other miracles along the way. But then this guy, as far as we know, had not seen any of that. He had word of mouth on a few things probably, but he believed.
And he did it, and he declared it in the midst of some of the most excruciating pain you can ever imagine. And he did it loud enough for people to hear because it's recorded in history. I mean, think about if you scaffold all these things, put them one on top of the other. This poor guy, we give him such a bad rap. It's like, well, what a loser. Last minute, getting in, he's getting into heaven, but he's smoking on the way in, you know? No, what courage. What strength of will.
You're allowed to smoke on the way into heaven, just FYI.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I'm not trying to minimize that. I'm just saying.
Come as you are.
I feel badly that I've thought about this guy in such a harsh way when he clearly has more courage than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And while deathbed conversions are certainly welcomed, his story is much more than that. Much more than that.
It's a deathbed conversion plus.
I like that. It's like an Disney Plus.
Apple TV Plus.
See, there you go. 7:30. It's time for us to take a quick break. When we come back, I was so surprised to see an article in the New York Times give some interesting thoughts on why it's so hard to talk about God. It is hard to talk about God in our secular world. But why? We'll analyze that together in a few.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Zach Williams, WCRF 734. For your spirit, soul, and body, it's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland. And don't forget Mother's Day. Sign up for that Mother's Day giveaway. You could get a spa gift card and a restaurant gift card for Mom. Text MOM to 440-546-2255. We'll send you a link to get registered. Text MOM to 440-546-2255. I'm sure you've heard the old adage, right, that there's two things you shouldn't talk about at holiday dinners.
Mm-hmm.
Religion and politics.
Of course, yeah.
Your guys' families ever talk about that stuff on holidays?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Happens once in a while. I'm usually the person to shut it down.
How do you shut it down? What do you do?
We're not doing that today.
It sounds like such a Daria thing. Do they listen to you?
Often.
Good.
How does it go in the Cuevas family? You talk about politics at Thanksgiving dinner?
Mm-hmm.
That goes okay?
Yeah, it goes okay.
That wasn't very enthusiastic, though.
Well, like what's like your parents? It's not your core family, like my parents. Not all everybody, like cousins and aunts and uncles. We're not doing it there. But just like my initial family, yes.
Ron?
It mostly goes well. I've got some relatives that are really in one camp, and they often will bring up something that is controversial and say, well, it's obvious this person's right. So we have to kind of poo-poo that or just walk away and leave them by themselves. But one thing, we can joke around some too. Like years ago, there was kind of a meme that went around, thanks, Obama, and anything that went wrong, I burned the pizza. Thanks, Obama. So we continued that, thanks, Bush. Thanks, Biden. Thanks.
That's fun.
Yeah, that is really fun.
Everyone knows you're joking. That's fun.
Right. Now, of course, the other one is religion. A lot of Christians want to talk about Jesus at the dinner table, but their non-Christian relatives feel the same way as we do about talking politics. They don't want to hear about it. And so I was shocked to see the New York Times address this issue head on. They had an article literally called, "Why is it so hard to talk about God?" They said, Pew Research indicates most Americans don't discuss religion with others very frequently. Is that your experience? People not talking about religion very much? I mean, our lives are different because we work in Christian radio. I'm just talking about it in like regular life.
No, I mean, the vast majority of people in my family are Christians, and I know that they're Christians, but we really don't talk about, especially with extended family, we really don't talk about it when we all get together, even though 90% of us are on the same page.
Same with us. Pew Research also found that many Americans also say they avoid conversations with people who disagree with their religious views. 100% true for me.
Yeah.
Especially if it's other Christians. I do not want to debate theology with you.
Right.
Whoever you are, I don't want to. Now, it's different if it's someone like Lauren's husband, Eddie. I have a ton of respect for Eddie. He loves theology. His goal is not to crush me into a million pieces.
No.
He would genuinely want to chat about it. Okay, well, that's different.
Right. I like that.
He doesn't have like a stance he's trying to put upon you. He's just wanting to talk about it with you.
I actually had a chance. It was him and me and Pastor Scott Lessing once on my deck. And I was totally uninvolved in the conversation. Mostly because I don't think Eddie was interested. He hears plenty of me in his life. And he asked Pastor Scott like a theological question with a sincerity and an openness that I don't know that I've heard very often. And the two of them just had a beautiful discussion.
Nice.
Yeah, it was wonderful, but it's so rare. And so why do you guys think it's so hard for people to talk about? I mean, the word's religion, but New York Times says it. Why is it so hard for people to talk about God?
I mean, you kind of discovered this with your journey to discover about your grandfather. A lot of families, even those that are healthy, I think it's really hard for them to have those deeper, harder conversations that have some weight to them.
Yeah, when it's not part of your family culture, right? To go deep, it's hard to go deep. It's like, how do you start it? So anyway, we've been talking about the weather and sports now for the last 20 years. What do you think of Jesus? That's a tough one. I'm assuming that Lauren, being a pastor's kid, this is not a hard thing in her family to talk about.
No. Yeah. My dad's always just been, he'll just go deep with you, talk about religious stuff with you, talk about Jesus with you, whatever he's thinking about or reading about. We had a family dinner with some family friends recently, and these family friends are Jewish. And my dad and this man, who is a somewhat conservative Jewish man, they just started talking about it. Like, they started talking about Moses and stuff.
It's beautiful.
And they're both just like,
that's cool,
happy to do it. And my dad came back and he's like, I think I'm gonna like research some more, so I'm able to talk more intelligently with him next time.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Pastor Tim.
I know, it's really sweet. And
Tim
he was like vibrating with energy, so excited.
Oh, I love that.
Now, I think there's a lot of Christians who that concept sounds really interesting, but they can't do it.
Yeah.
If they encounter a Jewish person, they can't figure out how to talk about it.
How do you even start that conversation with that? I mean, we're just so afraid of making things awkward and feeling awkward. I think that's, from a lot of us, that's one of our biggest fears, I think.
Oh, for sure. How did Pastor Tim Downey do it?
I mean, it wasn't like these people knew what my dad does for work. It's not a secret.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that they're Jewish, and so that wasn't a secret. And so I think, from what I understand from my dad, this man just was like, hey, so I've been like thinking about this or reading about this, and I'm not even sure, like, this is what my religion said, and I'm not sure I agree with that. And my dad said, yeah, Christianity wouldn't agree with that either.
Look at him go.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, so you're Jewish. We both have a Bible.
Yeah.
Or anyway, circumcision, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, the only thing you know about Jewish people, yeah.
But this is the things that come into our minds. We don't know how to do it.
Yeah, he was just open to talking and saying like, oh yeah, well, I wouldn't agree with that, and most Christians wouldn't agree with that either.
And I think this piece from the New York Times doesn't talk about this aspect of it, but I think often it's hard for us to let go of an agenda. That's why it's so hard to talk about God. And we think we're hiding it well, but everybody can see from a mile away what we're trying to do. It's like they're going, well, I see what you're doing. You're trying to convert me. We ask questions that are almost apologetic in nature. And so people feel like it's combative.
You have to be curious about people. Like, you can be curious about someone who's Jewish and ask them questions about themselves without just trying to convert them.
But the key is, though, remove from your mind the idea that in this conversation, you're going to witness to them.
Yeah.
I think that's what we do, right? We go, I'm open, I'm curious, I'm going to ask an open-ended question. And you think to yourself, and maybe we'll get to Jesus.
And I think sometimes we forget that religion is very personal for people. The reasons that they chose to convert to this religion, or they chose to stick with this religion if they grew up in it, it's very personal, and it has it tells you a lot about who they are deep inside of their hearts and their minds. And so asking questions or trying to convert someone is very personal, and to try to do it just like willy-nilly first conversation is, you're kind of digging at someone's personal life and the way they've built up their entire life, the way that they believe, their belief systems, how they function in the world.
You need to respect other people's convictions the way you want them to respect yours. You might not be happy if someone who is Jewish or Muslim was trying to convert you with your deeply held beliefs about Jesus and the resurrection.
Yeah, so you got to go in curious and learn about why do they think that.
But then here's where it falls apart, right? Somebody wouldn't understand why this might bother somebody. You can help me figure it out. So you're Jewish. I think that Jesus is the Messiah. Who do you think the Messiah is? I'm curious. I'm open about what they believe about the Messiah. But you both laughed at the question.
It's a really inflammatory question.
What do you mean? I love Jesus. They believe in the Messiah. It's common. Messiah. They're waiting for the Messiah.
Yeah, but it's not common, though. Because obviously we don't have the same Messiah. Obviously.
You don't agree.
It's not common. You don't agree.
And
how about you start with the things you do agree upon?
There you go.
That's one of the core things that separates us as well, and you're going straight for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a prophecy in Isaiah. What do you think this means? I think it points to Jesus. You see, I mean, people don't understand that that's aggressive and rude.
Yeah, you can start with things that you know you agree upon. Why don't you talk about some Old Testament stories?
Because we share a lot of history with Jewish people.
But if I could just get them to read that prophecy, they might see Jesus.
Yeah, they have.
They have.
It just, there's some disconnect, or they don't want to believe it, they don't understand it, but you can't go straight there.
So how do we characterize that mindset? I've never been able to come up with a label for it, because that person can trick themselves into thinking they're actually being curious and kind.
But you're not being curious and kind, because you still have your end goal in mind is I'm converting this person. Your end goal in mind is not I'm going to learn more about this person.
It's honestly a little passive aggressive. And I think we put too much pressure on ourselves to be the reason someone gets saved.
Yes.
When that is on God. Like, yes, God calls us to, to witness and to plant seeds, but we may not be the ones that water the seeds or the ones that harvest.
Or I know, like, a lot of people, they spend decades pouring into their children, teaching them about Jesus, and then suddenly there's like some youth group teacher or some like person at crew on their college campus that they actually become saved, and you're like, hey, what the heck? Hey, what the heck? I just did all this work for years.
Yeah.
And you get all the credit? You youth group leader? Are you leader at crew?
How dare you lead my kids to Jesus?
Now, I can picture the text message coming in, right, saying, are you two saying
no, I'm not.
That you don't care if this person gets converted and you're not going to try to witness to them?
Absolutely not.
Well, that's not what you said. You said that you're going to have a conversation with them where that's not your goal. But isn't that always your ultimate goal, that the world would be saved? Aren't you compromising your Christian faith?
The world will know that we're Christians by our actions. And so we need to be kind and thoughtful and just fostering a genuine relationship with someone. I think there's a decent chance they'll become curious. You can still have those conversations. Maybe you can progress them to where they are a little bit more evangelical in nature, but you can't just go for the throat on that.
But, people do it out of guilt. They're like, I'm supposed to convert this person.
And that's not a good starting point for anything in life.
But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be curious in a way that's deceptive. I'm going to be curious I'm going to push aside the goal, but I'm still thinking about it. And so I'm going to ask them about the Messiah. See?
I've already answered that question.
Yeah, I know you haven't. What I'm trying to do is reach that person and set them free. Like, stop trying to be God. You may be just a tiny little drop of water in the watering that's done on spiritual things in this person's life, that they may not even remember this conversation. So stop trying to be the person that gets to say that that person was saved because of you, because they'll never be saved because of you. They're going to be saved because of the work of Christ and the Holy Spirit. Then you can have real conversation. Now, the New York Times interviewed a person who I checked online. Her name is Krista Tippett. She hosts a radio show and a podcast called On Being. Says online she's a believer. I don't know anything about her theology, so don't worry about that. But they wanted to ask her about why is it so hard to talk about God, in the sense that she does it all the time. She manages to have great conversations about God with people of various backgrounds. What's her secret? Well, she shares that, and we'll talk about her strategies and the thoughts behind it in just a few minutes.
1 in 5 Americans live with a mental health condition. Half suffer in silence without treatment. Those who do seek support may be forced to wait months for care. Encompass Christian Counseling addresses these concerns by providing mental health and addiction services to help more people experience their worth in Christ. Encompass is working to expand their services and decrease wait times. Learn how you can be a part of the solution and help create hope for the community at buildinghopecampaign.org.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Claire from Trinity Debt Management. I'm a counselor, and the reason that I love working for Trinity is because I get to help folks with one of the hardest problems a family can face, and that's financial difficulties. In this day and age, everything is going up. You have higher utilities, higher grocery bills, higher fuel, and those credit card interest rates have gone up as well. We can help you with that. We can help you get lower interest rates, lower monthly payments. In just a few minutes, we put together a plan that gets you out of debt and keeps you out of debt. I love my job. It's a great program and a very smart way to find debt relief.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
I'm Claire, a Trinity counselor. Call me and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
They say mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
That was Ron Eastwood and Dana Eastwood.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Gosh.
It was Tasha Cobb Leonard and Lecrae. Sounded a little bit like you, though.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever tried that song.
This is Mornings with Brian, WCRF. Dave Szfranski will be here in just a couple of minutes. Before we get there, the New York Times interviewed somebody who does a podcast about religion, where the goal is talk about faith with people of different beliefs and backgrounds. And since America struggles to do this, the New York Times was like, why is it so hard to talk about God? And they asked her. She gave a couple of interesting answers. One of them ties to something you said, Lauren. She said that religion is, quote, an excruciatingly intimate thing to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way she put it, excruciatingly intimate.
Yeah, because you build your whole life and your whole worldview around this. It's everything you believe and how you view the world, how you view other people is built on this foundation.
Even for the atheist?
Yeah.
And I think we forget that, right? We think that somebody who may have no religion at all doesn't view faith as something that's excruciatingly intimate. Oh, but it is.
Not believing in God is their religion.
That's right. And I think the mistake we make if we don't view it, because we view it as something open and exciting. We're so excited about Jesus, we want to talk about him. But if you don't understand that it's excruciatingly intimate to other people, this is like asking someone about their sex life. So if you don't do it with care in the right moment, of course it's hard to talk about God.
Right.
That's why I liked the way she put it, excruciatingly intimate. And once you put it in that frame, then there's more. I think you have the right sensitivity.
Yeah.
Isn't that good? She also said, and you all hinted at this, being too direct and clinical can feel confrontational. And that is what the Christian does when they know surface level stuff about someone else's faith and their goal is conversion.
Yeah, I really like your dad's approach, Lauren, is I'm going to approach this with curiosity and stuff I don't know I'm going to research so I have more stuff that I can talk about and have an intelligent conversation.
Yeah.
And then the person from the podcast referenced something I'd never heard of before, but I loved the concept of it. It's from American poet Emily Dickinson. She said in one of her poems to tell the truth, but tell it slant. Tell the truth, but tell it slant. I read that. I was like, I don't know what that means.
Does that mean soften it a little bit?
Does that mean lie? No, here's what it means. It's to communicate the truth indirectly using nuanced or a metaphorical approach instead of direct, blunt statements. So, for example, instead of saying, hey, who is God? You say, who is God in the story of your life? So what you're asking for is them to tell you about their life experience, not their theology. But what you get is their theology.
Right. That's good.
Or instead of, do you have a religious life? Oh, I could see a believer saying that. I could see me saying that. And instead you
Love
say,
the honesty.
was there a religious or spiritual background to your childhood? She says she's gotten the most strident atheist to open up like a book, just fly open when she asked that question, because everybody has some sort of religious or spiritual background in their childhood.
If you dig deeper, a lot of atheists were actually brought up in the church and left because they were deeply hurt.
And what you get when you ask it that way is the answer to the question, do you have a religious life? But you get a much better answer, because usually what people do is they'll tell you the chronological story of the faith in their life. And that's where, again, as Dickinson put it, you tell the truth, but tell it slant. You don't look for someone's theology, you look for their story. You want metaphor, you want indirect, nuance, not blunt. And I'm sorry to say that Christian apologetics in the 80s and 90s taught bluntness. They taught us to be blunt and confrontational. I know because I grew up in it and subscribed to it. And I think it keeps us from talking about faith well. Because you can get beautiful stories on this from people. Another one she said is, one of the ways to talk about God is embrace, I'm summarizing her thoughts, but embrace awe, A-W-E, awe. She said, I found scientists have a much more robust and apologetic reverence for mystery than even a lot of religious people do. They often live in awe. Physicists, evolutionary biologists, neuroscientists, and social psychologists are asking and answering existential questions. They're illuminated in fascinating ways. These things that religious people have always pursued and wondered about. Scientists love awe.
Yeah, and Christians are really uncomfortable with we don't knows or gray areas.
Yeah, and scientists embrace it. And they're in awe of it. And then she said something that I take for granted as well. She said, poetry is another discipline that does this very thing. Religious traditions have always understood that we must use poetry at times to convey truth that is hard to convey. Often when we're talking about this, sometimes the best thing we can do is point to poetry. How much of Scripture is poetry? And yet in the Christian faith today, we are clinical apologists. Truth, answer, truth, answer, truth, answer. But God said, heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. What kind of house will you build for me? That's poetic language. He's not sitting on a throne that you and I can imagine, nor does he have literal feet that are up on earth.
Right.
It's poetic language.
And if you're wondering about poetry, well, where do I get it? The hymns are poetry that many of us know by heart. You can quote, lyrics from the hymns that will point you to a deeper truth in maybe using more words to get that fuller picture that you're not embracing.
Yeah, that song "It Is Well With My Soul" is just one of the most beautiful, poetic. The one line,
sorrows like
billows roll.
Billows roll, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, it is well with my soul. Yeah. What a beautiful way to say that you can have peace and sorrow coexisting.
Yeah, but I don't want to sing "You Can Have Peace and Sorrow Coexisting." It just doesn't hit the same.
Right.
Right? But I think you could actually get into a wonderful discussion with someone about beautiful poetry and lyrics, as opposed to, do you think that peace
and like sorrow can coexist?
Who wants to talk about that? And so she's leaned into the idea of poetry. I mean, to be able to quote Emily Dickinson as an approach to talking about religion, I think is beautiful. Tell the truth, but tell it slant. It's just a whole new way to examine life. And I feel kind of good because we, around here, we love a little nuance. Okay, a lot of it. We don't want a skosh. We want what's a baking term for lots? Daria.
I don't even know what a skosh is.
Heaping, cupful.
Yeah.
Packed. Unpacked?
Unpacked.
More than a bushel. More than a bushel and a peck.
Is that how you bake, Daria? Bushel and a peck?
No.
Maybe you should.
I use grams.
All right. Well, it's 8 o'clock, and it's time to get to Ron's news in today's Moron Moment. And then the David Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group, will answer your financial questions, assuming you ask him. Call or text right now.
Otherwise, he's just going to shout, and then you're going to complain.
He'll probably give marriage advice. We don't want that. So please ask your financial questions.
And we'll go down tangents.
We'll do that anyway, but we will get some questions in somewhere if we have them.
The long tangents are often filler for your lack of questions.
Correct.
440-546-2255. 440-546-2255.
For your spirit, soul, and body, it's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Supreme Court is considering what could be the nation's first taxpayer-funded religious public charter school. It's 8:02. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. The High Court heard arguments yesterday as Oklahoma's St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual School is seeking to join the state's charter school program. The school is opposed by the state's Republican Attorney General, as well as public and charter school advocates, who argue that this would threaten the separation of church and state by allowing taxpayer money to go towards religious education. The state's high court says Ohio can resume enforcing a law that bans certain procedures for transgender youth. The request was made by Attorney General Dave Yost, who asked the Supreme Court to pause an appellate court decision that called House Bill 68 unconstitutional. The latest ruling will allow the enforcement of the ban while litigation is pending. And Giant Eagle confirms that bread sold in their Ohio stores is included as part of a multi-state recall. Upper Crust Bakery produces Giant Eagle multigrain sourdough and Market District multigrain sourdough that is commonly available at Giant Eagle and Market District locations. Packages sold between April 7th and April 12th are being recalled due to possible presence of glass. In sports, the Guardians doubled up the Twins 4-2, while the Pirates edged the Cubs 4-3. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Mostly cloudy, a chance of showers and thunderstorms this morning. Then showers with thunderstorms are likely this afternoon. Some thunderstorms may produce gusty winds this afternoon. It's going to be warmer with our high temperature in the upper 70s. At last check, mostly cloudy and 58 in Cleveland, 57 in Akron and Canton. Clear skies now over Lorain and Elyria, where it is 50 degrees.
It's time for your moron moment.
Mental Health Awareness Month is celebrated in May. The stigma around mental health and treatment has long existed, even though this has started to change. Still, some people hesitate to seek help or even talk about it with their loved ones for fear of being judged and facing unnecessary backlash. Simple logic dictates that if we are hurt anywhere, we must seek treatment to get better. Let's normalize mental health care. And that's your Moron Moment. And you can find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It is 8:04 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
It's morning. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
expressed during this program represent the opinions of the participants and is given for informational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to replace professional advice for your specific situation.
You've got financial questions. He's got answers. David Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group.
And I am flush with pierogies right now. I've got like so many pierogies, I don't know what to do with them.
Is that all you're eating while your wife's gone?
No.
Pierogi breakfast?
Did you bring us pierogies?
No, he didn't.
Heck no.
He's saving them for
No.
himself.
Actually, my wife said, "Are you going to take them pierogies?" I'm like, no.
Wait, LaVon listens?
She thinks about us.
Yeah, she listens. Of course she listens.
Hey,
I'm
LaVon.
Oh my gosh, hi.
How sweet.
You ladies would love LaVon. I think you've met her, haven't you, Ron?
Yes.
So
Well, he's not a lady, so.
Well, yeah, but that's
you.
why
Are
I
we
didn't
sure? Are we
include Ron.
100%
You said, you ladies. Ron, you've met her, right?
Well, I didn't want Ron to feel left out.
Oh,
It's
sure,
the bearded woman.
But she's so great. LaVon is great. It's like one of those.
Daria might have met her at Kelly's wedding.
Right.
Yeah, Daria's not paying attention.
I was too grandiose with child to go to Kelly's wedding.
You were humongous.
I was.
Like your stomach had its own zip code.
It did.
When
it's like
you were a watermelon
unfortunate.
belly, as those teenagers
It's like
say.
quite unfortunate. It's like, what?
Your belly got a letter.
She did.
To its own zip code.
But
Yep,
when
she
you
did.
meet LaVon, you kind of go. You want to go. Hey, so Dave, why?
It's so true.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Yes,
She's
it
the
is.
luckiest woman alive. I'm 100% sure.
Reverse that.
She's lucky because she gets to go on vacation for 3 months and just sit in Florida by herself. That's lucky. That's lucky.
Yeah.
I wonder what she's doing today.
Did she take both dogs with her this time?
Well, she did only
Oh
because
my gosh! So you have nobody with you?
my house is so quiet. It's
Aw, so you don't have the click, 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 click little toes.
no. Well, one of my dogs, TJ,
Right.
had a yard accident and cut her paw.
Oh no.
And the vet says,
Poor baby.
"Oh yeah, we're just going to take the toe off." I'm like,
Oh,
whoa,
that's
whoa,
not-
Oh, yeah.
That's
Well,
not.
dogs.
What's Plan B?
Well, they stitched it. We tried stitching it, and it wouldn't heal. So they just just going to cut it off.
Can you imagine shaving a dog toe to like do surgery? Pull up the nail, shave it.
You have to put them out for that because
I don't,
they just.
I don't think they do
hate
that.
it.
I think they just cut it off.
They don't like having their teeth or their
Their toes
feet
cut
touched.
off. Yeah, they don't like their toes cut off.
No, so the dog is pretty upset about this.
They have an aversion to losing body parts.
Aw,
Apparently,
Tej.
they're not too
Poor
different
thing.
than people. But no, she healed, and right.
Oh, okay. So she didn't lose a toe.
Yeah, right as the luckiest woman on the planet, my wife, was going to Florida, the dog got like clearance.
So Tej is going on a trip.
So TJ and Max go on a trip together. I'm like, well, we've had Tej on a leash for a month and a half. You know, like, come on, go potty. It's raining.
She got a little hurt toe.
You cannot let her run. And so they got clearance. And I'm like, hey, I think the dogs need to be together to play and get back into the habit of doggy behavior.
Yeah.
And so I let them both go. It was hard.
Someone asked, what kind of dogs are TJ and Max?
They are Australian cattle dogs.
They're so cute.
I went to get a tire fixed the other day, and a lady walked in with one of the ugliest dogs I've ever seen. I don't even know how it was a little Chihuahua,
But with like hair, like that sticks up, just like 4 hairs that stick up.
almost no hair,
Yeah. I've seen those.
and it looked angry.
Well, it was angry. It's a little dog.
And she
They have
had
a
to carry it
complex.
around because it's just too small and ugly to walk.
Yeah.
Imagine being so ugly
when
you
I've
can't
eaten hot
walk.
dogs bigger than your dog, you need a bigger dog.
Yeah, it's like
No man should have that dog.
No.
I love when I see guys walking them though.
Like Josh, our station manager, the tiniest dog
Does
on
he?
planet Earth.
What?
He has a teacup Yorkie.
She's the tiniest thing that's ever existed.
I'm going to defend Taki.
I like Taki.
There's
I
nothing
love
wrong with
Taki.
Taki.
No, we could defend the dog, but
She's
I
a
think we have to
beautiful
question
little
Josh's manhood.
toy Yorkie.
She's so tiny.
It's Mimi's dog.
Yeah, it is.
Sure it
Well,
is.
actually, they're the dog's humans.
Yes.
Yeah, she is the queen.
She runs the household.
Poor Josh.
All right, it is time for financial questions for Dave Szfranski, 440-546-2255.
We're having family member assets go through probate. I think of my own family, and I would like to remove the burden of end-of-life choices and know how they'll receive any assets I have worked for. Is there a way to avoid probate? I was told to
Yes.
trust, but how do I know if it's right for my situation?
Well, there's another way. You could So you don't want to go through probate.
No.
What you do is you spend all of your money right before you die, and then there's nothing to probate.
Or spend a decade slowly giving away your money to your kids.
Well, you could do that.
With a maximum of, was it 18,000 something a year?
It is 18,000 this year, but the problem with that strategy is you may need it to live on now.
Right.
So if you need the money to live on now, your planned giving strategy might want to be a little bit different. So if you, for instance, your house, you can have what's called a transfer on death deed for your house. And whoever you name as transfer on death, at the moment you assume room temperature, technically the house is theirs. Now, they're going to have to prove that not only are you at room temperature, but they didn't cause that to happen. So if you're like charged with murder because you wanted to get somebody's house, you're not going to get it. You're going to go to jail. But you could do that. You could do that with a brokerage account, with anything that has a named beneficiary, like your 401k, an IRA.
But the other vehicle is a trust.
You can use a trust, yes.
Now, I think movies have ruined those kind of things for us because
Trust fund babies.
Well,
that is real.
It also seems like what happens is somebody writes a will on a piece of paper, and then when they die, the lawyer shows up at the house, gathers everyone around, and reads the will. And when they're done reading it, it's over. Everyone gets their stuff and they go home.
Everything's enacted, yeah.
And from what I understand, there's never a reading of the will.
No, there could actually be a reading of the will,
but that's not when it's over.
No, if
a will isn't enough to immediately transfer assets.
A will is an instruction to the probate court as to what you want done. So if you haven't planned to get out of probate court, your will is your ticket into probate court. A trust is your ticket out of probate court. So you say, well, anything in a trust isn't going to be probated. Now, there's this thing attorneys will call a codicil, which says, okay, anything that I should have put in the trust goes in the trust. Well, the probate court is going to say, well, yeah, that should have been in the trust. So it's going to go into trust and follow instructions from the trust. Most people, there are people that want to go through probate court because of family members or whatever it is. Some people can benefit from probate court. Most people are under the impression that they don't want to go through probate court. It can't take a long time. It could take months to go through probate court, depending on the assets that are getting probated. A trust is very quick.
And that's why estate planning attorneys often offer a package deal where you get a will and a trust.
And a set of Ginsu knives.
Remember those? I bet you don't know about Ginsu knives.
But wait, there's more.
They cut quarters, right? Isn't that what they would do with the Ginsu knives?
Yeah, they're great.
Did you buy them?
I have 5 sets because there was more.
Did you buy them off TV?
No.
Did you ever buy anything off TV, by the way?
I'm like on the Home Shopping Network?
On any, from infomercials even back in the day. Huh. I only brought this up because I want to mention that I did. So
Go ahead, Brian,
I bought
please.
Monster Ballads, the double CD, and I made Lauren and Daria watch the infomercial
He did.
from like
Last week he
1998.
did. Yeah.
And it was epic. You loved it. You loved it. We have to take a break. 817-440-546-2255.
The world is changing fast. AI, global crises, and shifting cultural landscapes are shaping future generations in ways that are hard to imagine. The question isn't if change is coming. The question is, how will we respond? Join Moody Bible Institute this May in Chicago for Future Church, preaching and leading the next generation. This powerful conference will equip you with dynamic preaching methods and cutting-edge leadership strategies to reach that next generation. Register now at moodyconferences.com. That's moodyconferences.com.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from North Coast Family Foundation, biblically based Christian counseling that uses practical tools to help marriages heal and thrive. More information is at northcoastfamily.com. That's northcoastfamily.com.
Hey, I'm Brant Hansen, and it's obviously great to do nice things for people. That's what a lot of missions do, and some hope that someone will ask about Jesus. But this is what I love about Cure International Children's Hospitals. Not only are kids healed, Cure shares the gospel openly and clearly with everyone. It's what they do. It's exactly what Jesus told us to do, proclaim the kingdom and heal the sick. Find out more about Cure and what God is doing in the world. It is a beautiful thing. Cure.org/Moody. Cure.org/Moody.
I am David Szfranski, a real American. a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you could trust.
At least that's what he thinks. He's here to answer your financial questions.
A true red-blooded patriot.
And you and I are now, in a sense, Army buddies.
Yeah, in a sense. Yes.
My daughter is in the United States
sense
Army.
of delusion.
Her genetics are half mine. Therefore, I'm essentially half in the United States Army right now.
That's basically true, yeah.
Scientifically.
You got through basic training, Brian.
Scientifically, yes. Genetically. All right. It's time to get your financial questions into Dave Szfranski, 440-546-2255.
Is the decrease in the GDP a bad sign for the economy? First, GDP.
Gross domestic product.
Yeah, he's right.
Thank you.
The value of all goods and services produced in America.
Thank you.
Well, the number that came out, I believe it was yesterday, was down a little bit. And I think it is mainly due to a trade imbalance that occurred in the first quarter.
It was 3% down or something, right?
Yeah, because people were 0.3%. 0.3%.
I knew there was a 3 in it.
People were front loading.
There's a difference between 3 and 0.3.
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
It's just math. It's just math.
It's irrelevant. They were front loading purchases from overseas to kind of get in front of tariffs, if they actually happen. Now, you know my opinion on tariffs, Brian.
That they're a negotiation tool?
They're a negotiation tool. I think there's 70 or 80 countries that are talking to our U.S. trade representatives right now. And out of those 70 or 80, I don't mean to minimize other countries and make fun of them, but I'm going to do exactly that. There's about 17 countries that really matter, trade-wise.
That economically matter, yeah.
Right. And we're going to have a trade deal with the vast majority of them in principle by the end of June.
And yet I think economists are primarily concerned about the really high trade war between the U.S. and China and its impact on the GDP and other things.
It will. I mean,
Did you hear that? I mean,
it almost sounded
it sounded like I was an economist for a second. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're not dressed nearly poor enough to be an economist. Well, you're close. It's the hipster doofus collection. Economists, depending on what bent your economist is from, you can get entirely different stories about what's going on right now. And I think China ships us, we buy from China. We sent to China 1/5 of what they sent here. China is in no bargaining position right now. Now, it's easy to
But they're digging their heels in and saying they don't care.
No, they're digging their heels in the press. And one of the things that I learned early on in my study of economics and politics is that the things that are said in the open are very different than the things that are said behind closed doors. The things that are said in the open are genuinely or generally for domestic consumption of that politician. So if China came out and said, we are subservient to America and we have to do what they say, there's going to be a revolution in China. They cannot come off like that. They're bargaining too. They're negotiating too. So from when does the negotiation start? The minute you walk in the room. And so whatever you say, however you look, the posture that you take is all part of the negotiation. And the people at the top, these people that negotiate billion-dollar contracts for a living, understand this acutely. So do you shake my hand like you're like wet toilet paper? I mean, is it limp-wristed? Are you aggressive when you approach me? These are all things that are going through everybody's mind in the room. So the Chinese are not going to come out and say, oh, we have to do what they say because we're basically at their beck and call. But in the end, that's what's going to happen. Their economy is resting on what happens in the next 60 days.
And Sarah and I are getting much older than we actually are, and we like to watch the evening news together. Like
my God.
Like it's 1982. Yeah. And last night on Lester Holt's broadcast, they had someone do a piece from one of the ports in California, one of the leading ports that brings in Chinese goods. Mm-hmm. And the port master, or whatever his name was talking about how they're already seeing a reduction in...
Was it Joey Smugglovich? Because I think he might work out there.
It could have been. I didn't see the name tag at the bottom. But they're already seeing a reduction in tankers coming with shipping containers.
Yeah. Well,
and
it's
so
costing 145% more.
So it could have an economic impact on the average American, pretty dramatically so, while those negotiations take place.
So my impression of the reason Donald Trump got elected was to shake things up and to change the way. We're never going to not have a trade imbalance with the rest of the world, because one of the reasons we have a trade imbalance is because we're very wealthy compared to the rest of the world, and they're very poor compared to us.
And so it's going to inherently be imbalanced because we're so wealthy. Yeah.
So one of the things that the Chinese do that's unique is they abuse their currency on the open market. So they purposefully keep their currency cheap so that there is a trade imbalance. And if they allowed their currency to float, and nobody really allows their currency to float naturally, we intervene in our currency every day, but it's to keep it stable, to keep it about where it's at. So that's one of the things when you're the world's reserve currency, you need to create an expectation that's reasonable. And the reasonable expectation for our currency is it's going to remain fairly level. So the Chinese constantly intervene in their currency to make it very cheap, to make their stuff cheap, and thereby creating this trade imbalance. We're saying, hey, you're going to have to stop that, okay? It's not just the fact that you're dumping products in here, and when a company goes there, you steal all their intellectual property and then sell it against them and they go out of business. That's a small part of it. The other part is you can't just dump stuff here with a cheap currency and expect that we're going to take it. That's the shake-up part. The shake-up part is in Germany and France and all of Europe. They have export-driven economies, and we've said, I understand why you did that after World War II. You needed it, but you don't need that anymore. And we're not going to let you send cars here for no tariffs, but tariff us 100% on the way there.
Yeah.
That's not happening. So there's a new sheriff in town, and you better get used to it.
Now, I think when you examine war in general, and then we're going to extrapolate that onto trade war, and I think you made a good point about China, right? Where they, for the sake of their own stability, they can't be like, oh, never mind, guys, let's be friends with America now. So how does a negotiation look where China can walk away feeling like they won?
Well, that's a
to
good
me,
question.
a prolonged trade war seems to be almost inevitable because they can't just go, never mind, we love America. They can't do that.
This is what I call catastrophizing.
What I just did?
What you just did is called like.
So what's
the only
way out
way
as an
this works
economist?
out is we're going to have a nuclear war and everyone's going to die.
Well, I'm not saying nuclear war. What I'm saying is a prolonged trade war because China needs to find a win in order to negotiate. What's the win?
China cannot afford a prolonged trade war. They say, I hear this all the time where people say, "Well, China plays the long game." No, they don't.
So what's their win?
Their win.
How do they walk away as a win?
It's going to be we're going to allow them to speak publicly and meanly about us. Like it's going to hurt our feelings, like we care what China
But then they
thinks.
would still relent, you're saying. So
Yes.
they'd be mean but relent.
They're going to relent. Yes. Now, are they going to bend the knee at the United States Capitol building? Probably not. But we probably never wanted, zero tariffs going both ways to China. Nobody in China can afford what we make. You could say, we're going to cut the price in half for everything we send there. Nobody in China can afford what we have, except for a very small...
Because of how weak their currency is, and they keep it low.
No, they're poor.
Well, that
China
too, yeah.
is very poor. It's like 90% of the people in China live outside of the richest areas. Yeah. They don't even have running water. These things are real. And so they can't afford what we make. And that's why there's always going to be some trade imbalance. Like Europe is generally, there's wealthy pockets in Europe like Luxembourg. Very wealthy in Luxembourg.
Been there.
It's like the size of Parma.
Yeah, it's so small.
Yeah. So, what are we going to sell a lot to Luxembourgians? No.
Luxembourgians.
I don't know what they're called. I just made that up. That's how quick I can
Luxemburgers would be even more fun.
Luxemburgers, yes.
Sarah and I went there once when we had a train pass. And
you went to Luxembourg?
Yeah, and it happened. We didn't know it was a national holiday. Nothing was open. So we left.
Well, it's always...
It didn't take long to get there or
Europe
leave.
lives in a national holiday. People vacation.
The month of August.
I was at Disney one time, and there's an English couple there, and they're like, "Oh, are you on holiday?" I said, "What? We call it vacation here. We're in America, so speak American, please." And I said, "I'm here for a week."
Dave.
How long are you here for? Well, we've been here for 6 weeks. I'm like, who would want to go to Disney for 6 weeks?
I'll go anywhere for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Europe
matter where
will
it
never be
is.
great because of that.
I'll go anywhere for 6 weeks.
Europe collectively taking off the end of the summer. Love the idea. We need to take a break, right? Or no?
Not yet. I have 2 non-financial questions, and then we'll take a break.
Okay.
Mother's Day gift suggestions from Dave.
Don't. This is a full caveat before this. We do not endorse this.
Are we going to the tool aisle of Home Depot?
No.
What your wife needs is a
how
new
about,
drill.
How about this? Okay, yeah. Some new
shovel?
dishcloths. They can wash the dishes.
A new broom.
Yeah.
Dave, aren't you the one that does the dishes in
My
your
wife
house?
one time said, "Hey, the dishwasher's broken." I said, "You look fine to me."
This guy is the worst. This guy
What's wrong
is
with
the
you? The
worst.
dishwasher is
Next
not
question.
broke.
Can you ask Dave if Australian cattle dogs, their shedding is manageable? I love the breed, but my wife is hesitant about getting another shedding dog.
If you mean manageable by vacuuming every other hour on the hour, yeah, that's fine.
So they shed a lot?
They shed a lot, yeah.
Did you get like one of those, what's that automatic robot sweepy thing?
Roomba.
No, because one of the dogs is skittish.
So it scared her.
So yeah, you wouldn't see that dog for a week if the Roomba came
So you're
out.
sweeping and vacuuming every day?
Well,
you're
don't.
not. Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I don't even know where we keep the
Again,
vacuum.
Levon,
I
why
know
Dave? Why Dave?
I know we have one because I see my wife using it, but I don't know where she keeps
This
it.
guy is the worst.
By the way, before we get to the break too, Lauren, my wife Sarah is listening, and she said she remembers listening to the Monster Ballad CD I bought off television while we were dating, and it was so much fun, she said.
Yeah, listening to it with your boyfriend is different than your colleagues making you sit in a conference room and watch the infomercial from the 80s.
She was on her best behavior.
No.
She was on her best behavior because they were dating.
Right.
And it's strange that you would get two people as equally as weird as they are for each other. You know?
She's going to get you.
It's strange.
She's going to get
Somehow
you.
the universe would align.
You're on your own, Dave Szfranski. 8:31, time for a break, but we've got more time for your financial questions for David Szfranski. 440-546-2255.
Let's see, if something costs less, a lot less, but people are actually happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MetaShare. Maybe you've heard joining MetaShare can save you or your family up to $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true. People are just happier with it. They love being part of something that reflects and promotes their values and what they believe in. MetaShare works, too. It's been around for 30 years now, and members have shared more than $7 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network, so yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care, whether you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan that you're happy with. Here you go. You can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. It's 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m. Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
just one moment away from hanging out with Dave Szfranski. It's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Whether it's your faith or your health, you don't have to journey alone. We got Dave Szfranski here, and he is ready to answer your financial question.
He gave the wink. My wife said hello to Brian and Lauren, but she didn't mention Daria or Ron.
Don't do that to
I
LaVon.
don't know why.
Don't do that to LaVon. We know she meant it.
Mean.
No.
Hi, LaVon. You're the best. I miss you.
I agree.
Whatever.
440-546-2255.
What's the difference between a ladybird deed and a transfer on death?
Ladybird deed.
Is that the first lady of what was Lyndon Johnson was Ladybird Johnson?
Ladybird. I've never heard of a ladybird deed at all.
It
And
sounds
I think this
so
is
then
a
it's
joke.
fake. Great.
Well, I don't know that it's fake. I haven't heard of that. A transfer on death deed, though, this is so when you buy a house or a car or anything where there's a title. In general, if you die in possession of that title, it's going to go through probate unless you do something. So different with it. So you can, if you take that title and you retitle it to a transfer on death, at your death, at the moment you assume room temperature, that deed or title transfers to the person or people that you've denoted in the percentage. So on, for instance, a brokerage account, which does not have a beneficiary, it's a non-qualified account, you can say, well, I want this kid to get 70% of it because I like them a lot better. And this kid, 30%. Or 50-50.
So according to the Google, both ladybird deeds and transfer on death deeds allow property to transfer without probate upon the owner's death. However, ladybird deeds offer greater flexibility and creditor protection during the owner's lifetime compared to TOD deeds.
Huh, never heard of it.
In fact, it feels embarrassing to ask someone, hey, could I have a ladybird deed?
Josh would do that when he's got that little dog with him in his arm, in the pocket of his arm. You know.
I'm not commenting. He's the world's best boss. El Gran Jefe.
He is a good boss.
He is.
He cares about you guys.
I know. It's true.
If my husband is not handling money wisely, do you recommend splitting finances temporarily?
I'm sure you see this in your office occasionally, where a couple disagrees about what it means to spend money wisely.
Well, in general, my wife will bankrupt me one pair of shoes at a time.
She manages your budget. Say it plain.
Eddie does that.
She does. She's very good. My wife is very good with money. She's very good with money. But I would bankrupt us like one big purchase at a time. And so everybody's different with how
one
they
giant
spend
boat,
money.
and she gets shoes. It's not quite equal. So
That's right. They're really nice shoes, though. So she... I've seen this many times, and I think before I got to that point,
before you got to
before I
splitting.
got this to the point where I say, okay, we're splitting finances, and because this is a big deal when couples come in and I see that they have separate finances for whatever reason, I always think that they're missing out on something that God had planned for us, because money is so important, and it's you know, the way we spend money, the way we look at money, we get a lot of that from childhood and how it worked in our families and what our expectations are. But it's also a condition of the heart. And so if you want to be truly joined together as God intended, I do believe it makes sense to join your finances because money is so important in today's society. It's not the most important thing by far, but it is important. We need money. We have bills to pay. So all these things come into play. And so if there are disagreements on how money is being spent, I can tell you with almost 100% certainty that it's not just happening at the surface with money. There's other things that are going on there that are critical. This is critical mass kind of things in a marriage where there's probably other disagreements, and this is how it's manifesting itself.
So now, would you say the principle of spending money wisely is relative? It's not objective? In some sense, not in every sense.
Well, so on a 20,000 foot level, so we're looking down, big picture, we say, well, okay, this is what we make, whatever that number is.
Yeah.
And you're living on 80% of it. Okay, so now we're making personal choices within that 80% that we're spending. Well, look, I like to golf. Some people think it's stupid. Sometimes I think I'm stupid for golfing when I see my golf score. But, for other people, that's a totally appropriate thing. If somebody said to me, well, I like to bet on the horses,
Right.
okay? So that's their entertainment. And we're spending the exact same amount betting. He's betting on horses and I'm golfing.
But you think yours is better.
But I think mine's more appropriate because I'm a Christian. Golf is a Christian sport. My pastor golfs. Well, actually, my pastor doesn't golf. But I know a lot of pastors who do. But I don't know a lot of pastors who bet on the ponies.
So there are things that are unwise, and yet I think there are disagreements couples can have where there isn't necessarily the better or worse way to do it.
Well, I
like you're saying,
yeah, I think they're personal choices.
You can budget in golfing, and if she thinks it's stupid, it doesn't mean it's unwise to spend money on it.
Right. So what my wife thinks that...
Poor Levon is listening today. I'm sorry, Levon.
So I have a tailor that comes to my office and measures me, and he
Of
makes me
course you
clothes.
do.
Okay. My wife will go and shop for, hours and hours and hours at a TJ Maxx. That's why my dogs are named TJ and Maxx, because something that was very important to her had shaped her life. So we named them TJ Maxx. And
she's not wrong. It's
she's not wrong. Yeah, they don't have a lot of men's clothes there anymore. So I see a TJ Maxx, and I try and get Levon's focus on me so she doesn't see the sign, and we can drive by it, pick up the speed.
The sign is more attractive.
So how are you feeling? What do you feel about? Ask about feelings and yeah. So my wife is laughing at me right now because she knows that she doesn't do that, but so she'll go to TJ Maxx and she'll look for hours and buy one thing. I'm like, one time we went to Aldi, and we were in the first row.
Aldi Finds? The Aldi Finds aisle? Yeah,
She went, yeah. So we're in aisle 1. And fortunately for me, we had just eaten Mexican food, so I had a built-in excuse. But we're there in aisle 1 for like a half an hour. And I said, honey, if aisle 1 is indicative of all the other aisles, I don't have this in me.
We'll never leave.
We'll never leave. And I just ate Mexican food, and I think I have to use the restroom.
I need to go potty. I got to go home.
So we got out of Aldi. She's like, I can't take you anywhere. I'm like, you're right.
But you're saying it could be viewed as unwise to spend hours at TJ Maxx.
Well, I don't consider it
golf.
unwise. But there are expenses that I think don't reflect on us well. And so if you're at that 20,000 foot level and you're looking down, you say, well, hey, look, we're spending less than what we're making, so we have money, but I just don't agree with where you're spending the money. So now we have a personal choice.
Okay, there you go.
Thing that we're talking about.
If it actually is unwise, should they be separating temporarily?
I think before I got to that point, I would sit down with somebody. I would get somebody wise in my church.
Start with the pastor, maybe?
Well, I would start with the pastor. I would start with the pastor and just because you may be totally wrong. You may be a controlling person.
Okay, my question is there ever an appropriate time to separate your finances if your spouse is being unwise with finances?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like if they're gambling away your...
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to... I would want to get help for that person as my spouse. And I would want to ratchet up. Don't bring out the howitzers first, okay? Bring out the dialogue first. And then if it gets to that level, then yes. If somebody is being destructive and ungodly with their purchases, then yes, I do think there is a time to do that.
All right, it's time for a quick break. 440-546-2255. A few more financial questions for Dave Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group, coming up.
Pastors have to make tons of decisions, including what to do to meet healthcare needs for themselves and their staff. Christian Healthcare Ministries specializes in making healthcare decisions easy and affordable. Not insurance, but a health cost sharing ministry for over 40 years. CHM opens the door for individuals, families, and yes, pastors to be a part of a biblical way to meet medical bills. Get more information and answers to your questions at chministries.org/Moody. That's chministries.org/Moody.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I'm Claire from Trinity Debt Management. I'm a counselor, and the reason that I love working for Trinity is because I get to help folks with one of the hardest problems a family can face, and that's financial difficulties. In this day and age, everything is going up. You have higher utilities, higher grocery bills, higher fuel, and those credit card interest rates have gone up as well. We can help you with that. We can help you get lower interest rates, lower monthly payments. In just a few minutes, we put together a plan that gets you out of debt and keeps you out of debt. I love my job. It's a great program and a very smart way to find debt relief.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
I'm Claire, a Trinity counselor. Call me and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Hey, what's your name? I'm Brian. Brian? No, Brian. Brian.
And then they spell it how? Brain.
All the time.
That's an easy thing to mix up. I
Yeah,
resemble that remark. Yeah.
Pinky. That's what your name should be. Pinky. Your coffee name is Pinky.
The brain.
Hey, I went out to dinner with fans of the show the other night because they know I'm starving to death because my wife is out of town.
Yeah.
And
All
when
you're
she
eating is
gets back,
pierogies
she's
and
going to need
cereal.
to get back soon because the sink
You're
is
gonna wither
loaded with
away.
dishes. Someone's got to wash those dishes. I've had to buy a new set of dishes because I ran out.
I'm like 4,000% positive you've told us you're the dishwasher in your family.
You won't even let her do the dishwasher because you say she does it wrong. Yeah.
She's horrible at it. But no, so they said, well, when we left the reservation name, we were going to do it under Gertie.
Gertie. An
Now,
homage.
I have a very important caveat and actually a side note I have to bring in.
Okay.
Earlier today, I told Lauren I would like to play a song for her boys. And from Uncle Brian, and she said she wouldn't play it for them, and I'm banned from her house.
Yeah, if he comes to my house, I'm not letting him in.
And so I know the boys typically listen right about now. Take it away, Ron.
What does the fox say? What the fox say?
This is a great song.
What the fox say?
See,
later
Trey,
today.
Uncle Brian wants you to listen to this song. You'll love it.
Just play it over and over
Oh,
again.
yeah. Later today, it'll be, hey, Google, play What the Fox Say.
Yeah, Trey, it's called What Does the Fox Say?
And Baby Shark. Does he play Baby
No,
Shark?
he's not really into Baby Shark.
But he
That's a
will
great
get
song.
into What Does the Fox Say? Trey, that's from Uncle Brian. Have Mommy play that for you
You be a
today.
good
Never
boy.
called you Uncle Brian in their lives. So.
Well, they will now.
It's usually that little guy. Yeah, exactly.
That little guy thinks you
Mr. Brian.
should.
Hey, that's Mr. Brian.
Mr. Brian thinks you should listen to that. There we go.
What's it
gosh.
called? Hey, what the fox say?
What does the fox
What
say?
does the
Yeah.
fox say?
Just the fox song. That's all you need, Trey. Go ahead.
Okay. If I take my money out of a non-retirement mutual fund, do I pay capital gains? Can I gift my children a percentage of a mutual fund without paying taxes?
Ooh, you can give shares of a mutual fund, and that's assuming that there's a capital gain in it. You know, if you have a gain.
So there is going to be capital gains on it.
Well, if you gift them shares, you're going to gift them the current value. And so if you didn't sell it, there's no realized gain. So you have to realize the gain to have to pay tax on it. So if you gift the appreciated shares, you haven't realized the gain. You're just going to, so let's say you paid $10,000 for that mutual fund, and now it's worth $18,000. When you give them the gift, it's going to be an $18,000 gift. So there will be no capital gain.
Okay. How does a private note mortgage work?
Well, if you're the
Wow.
note holder, probably poorly.
What does that mean, Dave? Explain
That means like you come to me and you say, Dave, I'd like to buy a house, but nobody will give me a loan. Will you give me a loan? I'm like, well, why would I give you a loan if nobody else will, Brian? So you're not going to get that loan from me, but some people will do that.
Okay, let's not make it a loan. Just give it to me.
Yes. Okay. Well, that seems to make a lot more sense
Yeah,
to me
it does.
too.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about getting paid back.
Yeah, a private note is just exactly that. You've loaned money to somebody. You know,
Is there legalities to that? Do you have
Well,
to disclose it or something, or how do you?
No. So the IRS will impute interest Let's say you give your family member a loan at 0%, and it's a big amount. The IRS will say, well, if it's de minimis, if it's like so small that it doesn't really matter, you can do that. You can give a 0% loan. But if you're loaning somebody $400,000 to buy a house and at 0%, the IRS says, I don't think so. We're going to impute some interest there. You're going to have to pay tax on it. And so you can do a private note. And I see it a lot with family members. I see private notes with family members. I see it's also a big scam. So you got to be careful if somebody's coming to you to sell you private notes.
Oh, like someone you don't know.
Yeah, your scam antenna should be up and active. So, yeah. I think there's a scam.
I keep thinking I owe money on the Illinois tollway, but
Oh yeah, I got one of those the other day.
I wasn't sure.
And it was scary because it happened while I was on the tollway in Illinois, and I was like,
and there's like a
They found
warrant
me. Oh
out
my
for my
gosh, they
arrest
found me.
apparently in Illinois because
So my Easy Pass, I have a Massachusetts Easy Pass because it doesn't cost anything. They send it to you free. There's no monthly rent or anything. Ohio charges you a monthly fee to have, but Massachusetts doesn't. And my Easy Pass didn't work. Just stopped working.
Lauren had that same problem. She's upset.
So I got a love letter from the state of Ohio that says, "Hey, your
$5 million.
$1.50 yeah, it's like $18."
So it wasn't a text.
No, I got a letter. They will not text you. That's a scam.
I know. That's what I thought about.
So I called them and I gave them my Easy Pass number, and they charged me $1.50. But I had to get a new Easy Pass sent to me free.
Wow, way to go, Dave.
Me and my wife got married in September of 2024. We both have separate bank accounts. I have way more debt than she does. How do we bring our finances together in a way that doesn't make her suffer?
Well, she married you, so she's already suffering.
Yeah, dude, you set Dave up. You set Dave up with that one. Don't make it that easy, please.
He must be pretty good looking, though. She accepted that debt load. You know, like, okay, I guess the good looks overtake the debt load.
Well, but Dave, this is part of why now you hear about younger people actually asking people to disclose their debt as part of the dating process.
Yeah.
Because there is no way for her to avoid it, right? They're married.
They're married. It's her debt now. It's her debt now. In a lot of ways.
So she sacrificed marrying you, dude.
Yeah, she's suffering. Trust me. Look, how
do they bring their finances together so she doesn't suffer?
So here's where I would start. I would start with a joint checking account, okay? And that's where your paychecks go into, and that's where we manage money out of. So your house payment, your car payment, your cable payment, the food budget, that's all coming out of one account. We sit down, we talk about it. Annually, maybe we say, hey, what's going on with the budget? Should we give more money away? Are there missionaries we want to support? We do though. This is how you manage money. It doesn't need to be a weekly 3-hour board meeting where we talk about, well, why is there 1 penny more in the checking account than what I have in the check register or whatever?
Me and my husband just had a drive-by meeting yesterday, budget meeting. Real quick, but
yeah.
Was it fun?
Yeah, it was fun.
I could see you guys enjoying that. Was there a spreadsheet?
No, we use an app.
Oh,
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. You should use the technology that works. If it's a yellow pad.
Yeah, it works really well for us. And we just had a couple of questions about what's happening in May, different things. And so he said, does this look okay? Is this right from what you know is going on in May?
But now, can you bring in the wife perspective in this? Because this is partially a relational question.
Uh-huh.
So he's concerned that his wife is probably going to resent that he's carrying all this debt, or he's worried about how she feels about it.
It depends
what should he do?
on the debt, too. I mean,
it could be student loan debt.
If it's
it could be
student
credit
loan
card
debt and you have a good job, my aversion to student loan debt is when you graduate in basket weaving, and you're working at Starbucks, and you've got
basket weaving,
and you've got $150,000 of debt. That was a bad choice.
But I mean, you could be in a marriage relationship like that too, though.
Yeah.
They could have. So what's the relational answer to this? How do you work through that?
Well, I would hope that this is not new information to her. She married you knowing your financial situation. I hope that's something you talked about. But even if you did or didn't, you're married now, and so that's what you have to move forward with. And I think it's okay to bring your funds together. My husband had more debt than I had when we got married, but that's because I got my school for half off and he didn't. And so...
Are you saying you're smarter than him? So you
No, it's because
qualify?
my dad worked there, so...
Oh, okay.
Were you? Did you have all the feelings about that?
No.
Why not?
Because I love him. And
and that was kind of part of the deal.
I love him, and we're doing this life together, and I'm going to help you pay off these debts together.
I'm going to suggest something revolutionary here. Now, it's too late here. They're already married, so we're not going back on that. But everybody who's getting married should go through premarital counseling.
Yeah.
Everybody who's getting married should go through, because when I went through premarital counseling, my friend Gary did this for us. We had the biggest fights ever because I said something that was a little insensitive.
You?
He said, "So who's going to do the laundry?" I said, "Well, that's woman's work."
I meant
it. No, I really meant it at the time.
Dave.
Now, so
and she's still married to you.
Let me tell you though how I've grown. Okay, I will not let my wife fold my laundry. She just doesn't do it right. It's cathartic.
Levon's genius is doing it wrong on purpose.
Yeah,
by the way.
So,
payback.
I got asked to do this, to cook for a women's breakfast one time, and I totally screwed it up. I didn't make enough food. I'm like, you know what I just did? I shrunk the laundry. They're never going to ask me again to do this. That was great.
Now, for this individual as well, wouldn't it? I mean, if they haven't had the conversation yet, I think it would be helpful for him to look at her and say, "I'm sorry I came in with so much debt to this relationship."
I don't think so.
Why not? I mean,
because she accepted it. Look, it's a known
but
quantity.
you got to at least talk about. What I'm saying is, you have to talk about it.
It's clearly a burden to him.
Yeah,
he
so
feels
talk about
guilty,
it.
so it might at least assuage
I'm
his guilt,
against
even
what
if
you
she
said.
doesn't.
You're against
feel the
talking
same.
about it?
No, I'm against saying what you look.
What if you have a ton of credit card debt because you're irresponsible?
Well,
you can
that's
apologize
different.
for that.
I'm sorry for being irresponsible.
Yeah.
I'm going to do better next time.
Yeah.
Okay. But let's say it's legitimate. There are
Like student loan debt
I
for
don't look at
to be a
all
doctor.
debts equally. Okay. Credit card, irresponsible credit card debt, I do look at and say, well, one of two things are going to happen. Either you're going to fix this or you're not going to have a credit card. And so if it's debt that was used to build up your position in life, so now you have a really good job because of that, you invested in yourself. The amount of income that you're going to earn is going to far outpace that debt load over time. And so she's very fortunate that he believed in himself so deeply that he took out debt for college. Now, I'm generally against debt for college if you could avoid it, but I think
It's almost impossible these days.
It is almost impossible, but it's doable. It's not impossible. So the chances aren't zero that you could graduate with zero debt. I could show you a way to do it. It may not be your favorite way. It may not be the way the world says you should do it, but what do I care what the world says anyway, Brian? We're of the world, but not we're in the world, but not we're not of the world. So we don't have to think like the world thinks.
That's right, Dave.
You don't have to go to school for 4 years in some far-flung place and play frisbee on the quad with wispy-haired girls.
You can be like me and get up to a master's degree in education and work in radio. Makes perfect sense. Money well spent.
Yeah.
All right, that just about does it for time today. Look at us. We even gave relational advice today.
Yeah, I think your wife's going to be okay.
Lauren loves Eddie. It all worked out.
Yeah, I do. And we paid off our debt.
See?
Look at us.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Just sit down, work it out, get a
Make a
joint
plan.
check account. Yeah, make a plan.
As the song once said by the Beatles, we can work it out. We can work it out.
I
all I
thought
know.
you were going to go with make a plan, Stan.
You don't have to be mean,
that
Gene.
would've
Yes. Don't make a plan, Stan. You don't need to be coy, Roy.
That
Just-
song
what's the
is
last
all
part?
about leaving,
Just listen
so
to
that's
me.
probably not the best example.
Yeah, don't listen
for
to that
this.
one.
Don't.
I'm about to get the look, so I bet we better go, Dave. Dave Szfranski, president and founder of Edgewater Investment Group. Thanks for your wonderful advice today and for the average advice as well. If you want to reach out to Dave, come to us. We'd love to connect to you. Dave, you're the best. Thanks, man.
I know.
And Levon's even better. Now we got to go because JD Greer is going to preach. We'll see you tomorrow for Follow-Up Friday featuring
Jamie Buxton.
Jamie Buxton from City Mission.
Serving Sandusky, Cuyahoga,